Ну что ж, время начинать. Доброе всем утро. Уважаемые коллеги, партнеры, друзья, здравствуйте. Меня зовут Калинина Ирина, я собственник школы Тип-Топ и ее академический директор. Школа в городе Севастополе. У нас все еще продолжается лето, у нас теплое море, солнце, фрукты и все остальные прелести жизни. А мы сегодня, я хочу начать с того, что всех поздравляю с началом нового учебного года. Понимаю, что, наверное, это такой нелегкий праздник, но тем не менее, всех нас с этим поздравляю. Мы вернулись в классы, мы делаем свою работу. И в этом таком переменчивом сегодня мире, когда все достаточно тревожно, не очень-то понятно, что нас ожидает завтра, в этом мире есть одно постоянное – это наше стремление учиться профессии, совершенствоваться в ней. Именно поэтому вот мы через 5 дней встречаемся в Севастополе на очной конференции, на офлайн конференции «КРУК». Очень ждем тех, кто к нам приезжает, грустим по тем, кто к нам не доезжает по разным причинам. Вот осталось всего 5 дней. Ну а для всех остальных, кто по разным причинам приехать не смог, безусловно, мы для того, чтобы наша конференция не потеряла ни в контенте, ни в количестве участников, вот мы сегодня собираем такую встречу онлайн. И будем иметь возможность послушать целое созвездие из 5 спикеров, молодых, талантливых преподавателей. Они будут делиться с нами своей методической мудростью. Ну, а уже 5 дней спустя мы встречаемся и говорим о профессии дальше уже очно. Ну что ж,
еще у нас есть 8 минут до того, как к нам присоединится первый спикер, поэтому если у вас вдруг есть какие-то вопросы о КРУК, о pre-KRUK, о том, как все это происходит, мы будем рады на них ответить. Ну и прежде всего нам, конечно, хочется сказать большое спасибо спикерам, которые согласились в субботу, в свой выходной день, поделиться с опытом, рассказать об обучении письму, потому что надо сказать, что, наверное, это один из самых сложных аспектов. Мы сегодня будем говорить и о малышах, и о взрослых, и об обучении взрослых детей. В общем-то, еще ждем, и в 11:10 к нам присоединится первый спикер. Мы ждем ваши вопросы в чате, мы их видим.
Да, я хочу сказать, что, к сожалению, мы работаем в формате стрим, но, тем не менее, этот формат предполагает, что вы, хотя и не можете сказать что-то голосом, вы можете задать свой вопрос, вы можете обязательно какой-то дать комментарий тому, что вы слышите во время выступления. Мы очень ждем этих откликов для того, чтобы сегодняшняя встреча была еще более эффективна и полезна всем ее участникам.
Ну, пока мы ждем первого спикера, я хочу ее представить. Это Екатерина Редькина. Я думаю, что многие о ней слышали. Спикер многих конференций в сфере ELT. Екатерина – психолог, преподаватель английского языка, teacher-trainer, обладатель международных квалификаций TKT, CELTA, Delta, Fulbright. И на pre-KRUK Екатерина осветит тему psychological aspects of teaching and writing. Мы были очень рады, что Екатерина выбрала именно этот аспект, потому что о нем мы почему-то говорим мало, хотя мы все учим техники, да, письма, говорим об орфографии, о стилистике и так далее, о структуре письма, но мало разговариваем о психологических аспектах. И вот буквально через 6 минут Екатерина к нам присоединится и поделится. Вот я вижу, что Екатерина уже нас смотрит.
Когда мы ждем, напомню, да, что мы работаем сегодня 4 часа, вот, поэтому устраивайтесь поудобнее, заварите себе вкусный кофе, пусть день будет и приятным, и полезным, да, и действительно тема writing одна из самых сложных, все преподаватели это знают, и каждый эти сложности решает по-своему, давайте будем обмениваться мудростью. Да.
Если вдруг у вас возникают вопросы по расписанию, посмотреть его можно в нашей группе Тип-Топ Эксперт. Я напоминаю, что с 13:10 до 13:40 у нас предусмотрен перерыв. В первой части мы послушаем 3 доклада, затем будет получасовой перерыв, и затем завершим конференцию еще 2 докладами.
Здесь спикер готов, что можно
Сейчас мы уточним.
что ж, спикеры уже прям вот на старте. Хочется пожелать нам всем удачи. Good luck to everyone, and off we go.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me. Okay. Hi, my name is Екатерина Редькина, and today I will talk about psychology of writing. Okay, let us open the presentation. Okay, you should be seeing the presentation now. Okay, just a second. So, I will talk about psychological aspects of teaching writing, because originally I'm a psychologist, and this is my first education. But I've been teaching English for more than 10 years already, and I worked with different ages, different students, and today I will be presenting both as a teacher and as a psychologist. So what I would like to talk about is a very big, area. And there are lots of books written on the topic of, psychology of writing. But most of the books would be dealing with, research, and books I found that's more on the scientific study of, psychological aspects of writing, what psychological processes are involved, and so on. I don't think you're interested in that. What I want to talk about is the sort of psychological aspects of writing when you teach it, and this presentation will be mostly based on my education and my experience as a teacher. So maybe you've noticed that a lot of students are not, so big fans of writing, and they are not loving writing. Well, at least over the years I've been teaching, I haven't seen so many students that would, embrace writing and say that, yes, we love it and we are ready to do it every time. And when I asked teachers and students over the years, like, why don't you like writing? Why you think your students don't like writing so much? Usually there are very random ideas. Maybe if you ask yourself now, why my students do not like writing so much, either at home or in class, I don't know what comes to your mind. Well, many teachers would say that students don't have ideas, they don't know what to write about, and that's probably true. Many teachers would say they don't know how to structure their texts, and that's why they don't like it, because they don't have enough experience or don't have enough discipline to do it. Lack of language, this is usually this comes from students who say that, well, I don't know what to write about, or I don't know how to say it, and it frustrates me and I don't like it. I don't like to use the dictionary, or my teacher is unhappy with my language. What I've noticed is that very often students don't understand why they need to do it, because the teacher told them, but, well, is this the valid, reason? Obviously, maybe that should have been the first point. A lot of teachers would say that, and students would say that, well, writing is boring. There isn't anything fun about writing, and they don't see, like, what is so much interesting about it. Many students don't like to see their papers giving back with a lot of correction and a lot of red ink. Even if you don't use red ink, green ink, it doesn't matter. So maybe some of them cannot, sit still if we talk about young learners, and they need to spend time, they need to plan their time wisely at home. It all ends up, rushing to writing 5 minutes before the class. Of course, the results are not so good. So I'm pretty sure these are not only reasons why students are not, involved in writing so much happily. But what I was thinking, that let us structure this a little bit. And when I was thinking why writing seems so difficult, I thought that probably there are some subjective reasons that teachers have and that students have. And there are some objective reasons. So when we teach writing, probably we should be thinking about these two areas. So let us quickly look at them, at these 2 points. And then finally, we'll talk about sort of recommendations, what we can do as teachers in the classroom or outside the classroom to help our learners. Subjective aspect would definitely include 2 parties. That would be you as a teacher and your learner. Let's start with the learner. So subjectively, that's what your students feel or think or believe what might be happening. They really could be afraid of making mistakes. And if this is true, probably you need to pay attention to that and think how you can deal with it. Many learners might think that is pretty boring. This is true. This is their subjective idea. You might be thinking, as a teacher, that your task is pretty interesting and that, oh, that's an interesting topic, like, let's write it. For them, it might be not interesting at all. Learners might think that, why should we write? You know, it's useless. I don't see the point. Teenagers, like I teach 2 groups of teenagers now. Very often they're like, why, Kate, please don't ask us to write. We don't like it. Why? Why do we need to do it? And I try always to give them a reason, you know, why? Because, you know, let's do this because you might need it. It's quite difficult to justify, because just saying you need to write because writing is one of the skills, well, it doesn't prove anything to the students usually. Well, at least teenagers. For adults, for example, not having a clear purpose why to write could be one of the reasons, because for them, everything they do should be connected to their, you know, real life, to their real life objectives. Obviously, the learner might be thinking that they have no ideas or few ideas, or their ideas are not very interesting, or they don't want to share. As a teacher, I've noticed that very often, again, we as teachers give writings to share opinions, you know, sort of an essay. And we think that this is the easiest type of writing because, well, you have an opinion, just share. Sometimes they don't have an opinion. I mean, teenagers, for example, or younger teenagers, they don't know what to share because there is, well, basically nothing to share. And as I said, no clear purpose because they don't understand, like, why to use it, sort of, yeah, useless. Interesting thing, when we think about writing, we think like what learners think, what learners want, need, or something. I here want you to think about us, teachers, subjectively, what we have here. I was thinking a lot about this, and I asked my colleagues. And, you know, it's interesting that teachers have a lot of beliefs, right? And we bring these beliefs into the classroom. And they are mostly unconscious, and you don't think, oh, I need to do this, or I need to do that. Very often you do something, you don't even know why, because you think it's right. So beliefs about writing sometimes could be the problem to teach it, surprisingly. Well, not many teachers, but some teachers would think that writing as a skill is very important. That's true. But we don't have enough time at the lesson. We have other stuff to do. And I need to help my students with other things like listening, reading, speaking. Without me, they can't do it. Whereas writing can be easily done at home. That's why writing goes, you know, usually as a homework. Is it really so true that writing should be done at home? Just think about it. Do you believe that writing cannot be dealt with in the classroom? When was the last time you spent time in the classroom, like the whole lesson maybe, or half of the lesson, to teach your students writing, to scaffold them, to give them different strategies, to play with different maybe genres, and to help them to brainstorm ideas and so on? When was the last time you did it? For me, personally, it was quite a long time ago. Many teachers personally think that writing is boring, but maybe they will never say about it. Teachers might say that writing is a formality, well, when will my students need writing? Well, for exams, so they need to write an essay, that's it. There are more important things. In real life, they don't need it so much. Maybe you don't think it openly. Maybe it's unconscious. What happens, if you even slightly believe this way, you unconsciously spend less time on writing than on other things because, well, it's not so important, or they can manage themselves. And I think a very important thing is that we as teachers don't write. I mean, we don't write essays, we don't write articles. Well, maybe most of us now write blogs, blog posts on Instagram or Facebook in English. Okay, that's true, but that's a very specific genre. And do we often teach this particular genre in class? Probably not. What we want our students to do, have we ever done it? Or if we have, how often we do it? Is it like, I would say, are we good at it? Sometimes when I see the topic that my students need to write about, I'm thinking, poor students. I mean, if I was given this topic, I would know what to write about. So I try to, project what I give to them, to myself, and think, okay, can I deal with that? Can I deal with it successfully? And how can I help my students, Because I don't have the skill of writing, honestly. I do write on my Instagram, but that's probably it. I have my own diary, but it's in Russian, right? And it's very different from what we teach. So objectively, what I thought of, objectively also students might have very few ideas on what to write about. So you probably will notice it because they don't know what to say, or their ideas are sort of running in circles, they are repeated, and you're thinking, well, why I read it again and again? You've said it earlier, right? So few ideas. You will probably agree with me that students are very often lacking in language, and that's an objective thing. Maybe if your students had more ideas to choose from, more language, like sort of a vocabulary bank to choose from when they write, this could have been easier for them. Objectively, an objective aspect is also that, and that's sort of obvious, pupils, students, and generally all ages, they can't control both the language and the content. It's very difficult. When you're writing, and if you try it yourself, you will notice that usually ideas come first and the meaning, right, comes first, and you're not thinking about the form or the shape you're putting this meaning into. So probably you need to deal with it in several steps, when first you deal with the content and the meaning, and then you incorporate better language in it. You're helping with the language. What I've noticed, and this is a fact, I think, that students cannot plan. They cannot plan what they are writing about. I have a funny story. Last term, like last year, academic year, I was teaching my teens, and I asked them, okay, guys, I want you to plan your writing at home, because in class you will be writing, and there was sort of an essay they wanted them to do in class. So they created their plans at home and they came to class to show me. The plans look like this. Plan. Number 1, introduction. Number 2, main part. Number 3, conclusion. That was the plan that one of my students created. At that point, I realized that, well, planning should be dealt with separately, because apparently make up a plan doesn't mean much to this particular student. And obviously plan is something that should be helping. That plan couldn't help with anything. Also, a very important thing I've noticed is that students are more reluctant to write if they are not interested in the topic or if they cannot relate themselves to it. I know that in exams, I don't know, let's take Russian exams, state exam, or let's take Cambridge, very often topics are not relevant, and that's fine. I understand this, but why not to take the same topic and maybe change it a little bit so they feel more sort of personalized attitude to the topic. So instead of writing about something that is very distant, ask them, how can we reformulate it so you feel more interested in it? I do it, and I don't think it's a problem because you still deal with the structure, with the language. You don't change the topic completely. You sort of reformulate it so they feel they know what to write about. Again, with teenagers, it could be sort of giving them choice, and they appreciate it, because if they don't like it and the teacher doesn't care much about it, well, that's not maybe so good. If you ask them, guys, does it seem like an interesting topic? Well, I know it's not so interesting. Maybe we can slightly change it, or let's think together how to make it more personal, more interesting. Also, and this is very important thing I would like to mention, is that very often students, when they write, they do it very, let's say, superficially, without deeper going into the process, because they know that assessment will be super easy or superficial as well. So make sure that your assessment system is clear and understandable, because very often they get just a mark, 5, 4, A, B, I don't know which system you use. Maybe it's a 10-point system, then they get 10 or 8 or 9 or whatever. They don't know why they get it. Yes, you mark the mistakes normally, right? But again, does it mean that 10 mistakes leads to this point, or 5 mistakes leads to that point? Do they really understand how you assess your students? Okay, I'm being told that my presentation is on the first slide. That's interesting. I am actually sliding it, and I've been sliding it all the time. Okay, what can we do here? I'm sorry, just a second. I was sure that everything is working. Okay, you see it now. Okay. So you see it now, right? We talked about subjective reasons and objective reasons. Okay. We talked about learners' subjective aspect, like fear of making mistakes, having a few ideas that it's boring, maybe no purpose. We also talked about the teacher, right? Teachers' attitudes and beliefs about writing, that maybe writing shouldn't be done in class and so on. Also, what I was talking about here is that assessment system, right? As I said, assessment system may not be very clear and may not be very understandable. Another point that I would like to mention is that feedback that you give to your students on your writing may be not very constructive or useful. Think what kind of feedback you give. How often do you do it? Is it individual feedback, or it's just, to the whole class? I know if you have 20, 30 people in your classroom, it's not so easy to give individual feedback, but writing sort of presupposes it, right? I also teach at university, and we do have very big groups, about 25 people there. And when I give writings, I do spend a lot of time to give individual feedback to every student. And feedback is usually based on the assessment system that you created. So they know how you assess, and your feedback is based on that. And you say that, you know, your content was great. However, I'm not happy with your organization because, you know, you are lacking in linking words. As for your grammar, this, and that. I've also noticed, and that's sort of coming back to what I've mentioned before, students very often have no or low intrinsic, like internal motivation, why to do it. And this is something we probably need to deal with. Bedtime management, that's another thing. And bedtime management could be about, you know, writing itself. It could be generally bedtime management because they think that, oh, writing will be quick, you know, it's like 5 minutes. And usually they do it before the class because they don't know how actually long it takes. Maybe there are other factors that I haven't thought of, but from my experience, this is the list. And what kind of solutions, if I may say so, I might suggest here? Well, based on, you know, problems, subjective, objective reasons. First of all, find out what are the lacunas of your students, what are they lacking in, and spend time on scaffolding your students. Scaffolding could be very different, right? We need to support our students in their ideas. So maybe, what about brainstorming ideas with them? Creating mind map maybe on the board with ideas, putting ideas on post-it notes, and then again putting them on the board or on the desk. If you're teaching online now, like I'm teaching online now, I hope we'll turn to face-to-face, but it could be creating mind map of ideas online, because there are certain sites and programs that help to do that. Also, next step, as remember we were saying that it's difficult to think about meaning and form at the same time. That's why when you thought of what you're writing about, the ideas, why not to try to create a mind map of language that will help to express these ideas. So we often do that. We have sort of branch with certain idea, and then I ask my students to brainstorm what kind of language, grammar, vocabulary they think they will need or they want to use here. Probably you will agree that normally writing is connected to the topic we study. So you don't give very, you know, abstract writings unless it's for exams. Usually writing, if it's in the course book, it will be connected with the topic. Let's say you study clothes, then you will be, you know, writing something about clothing. So I ask my students to brainstorm words from recent units and think of recent words we studied, so they can a little bit show off and use these words when they write. Because students very often are not sure about the structure, especially if it's a new genre like article, or I don't know, well, with emails they're usually fine. Let's say article, or if you decided to try any other writing, maybe a story, they might be unsure how this genre structurally and linguistically different from all others. So maybe here you need to come in and discuss the model and try to compare like why this is a story and this is an article, what makes them so different. Remember, I was giving example of my student not being able to create a plan, and I would say that plan is one of the first stages of writing. So staging the writing together first would be probably a good point to do. So you think of planning, then they create a draft, then you teach them how to improve this draft, maybe with different color coding, maybe with peer correction, maybe with giving them, let's say, time limit, and you say, okay, guys, I give you 3 minutes, I put my timer, try to correct the mistakes you find, hurry up, then we do something else. So you choose any method so they will have to deal with their draft again and improve it. And they can improve it in terms of content or in terms of language. I would definitely start teaching more writing in class if you're not a big fan of that. There are 3 main writing approaches. You might be familiar with them or not. Product, process, and genre writing. And if you are not a big fan of teaching writing, because maybe you don't know how to do it or you don't feel confident, then it's a good point to start from, to Google that simply and figure out, okay, how do I stage my writing lesson if I choose product approach or process or genre? You can always mix them up, obviously, but this will give you a starting point how to stage your lesson. Please work with your students' motivation, because as we discussed, students are not always happy about what they write and why. Personalizing the topic, letting them formulate the topic, as I mentioned earlier. Okay. It looks like we had some connection problems. Sorry for that. So let me just guide you quickly through the solutions. So it's all based on the reasons why students don't like writing very much, right? So first, if they're lacking in ideas or language or grammar, help them, scaffold them, support them with any, in any possible way. So what I do, I create with my students a mind map of ideas. So it could be manually drawn, it could be created online through different websites, it could be with, on the board, it could be done with the post-it notes or in any other way. And when we create a mind map of ideas, usually we add language there, grammar and vocabulary that could be useful. Normally, this language comes from the recent unit that your students studied, right? Because especially if writing comes from the course book, it's connected with a particular topic. Make sure that you play with different genres and structures so they know what's the, let's say, difference between a story and an article, an email and a story, and so on. Because it might be obvious for you, but it might not be obvious at all for your students. If you, another idea here is probably to help them stage their writing, first plan it, as we said before, and then draft it and improve. So with several, drafts. Many teachers feel uncomfortable to teach writing in class. And one reason could be because they don't know how to do it properly and most effectively. And, they think it's too much time, too much trouble. Actually, it's not, and it could be fun. And sometimes the results could be unpredictable from my experience. I mean, positive results. If you don't know in terms of methodology where to start from, I would recommend Googling these 3 approaches to writing, which is product, process, and genre writing. Just Google that, read the main steps, and try them out as soon as possible. And I think you should love it. Work with students' motivation, obviously. Try to personalize the topic, as we mentioned earlier, and try to make it interesting for them in any possible way. You know your students better, right, than anyone else. And finally, create the system of feedback and assessment. As I said earlier, for me, one of the problems that students have, they don't understand how they're being assessed and what is wrong. In my teaching, I use assessment from Cambridge exams. So in writings, there are 4 criteria there: content, communicative achievement, organization, and language. Each criterion gets 5 points maximum. Altogether, they get 20 points. And I usually give feedback on each of these criteria, saying that content was good, however, something. Yes, it takes a lot of time, obviously. But if you give them several well-assessed writings, I think personally it's much better, much more effective in the long run than 10 poorly assessed or just formal writings, and they don't know why they actually did that. Try collaborative writing. This is writing that helps to improve accuracy, because when two students are working together, usually it's two, rarely three, better two, they help each other and they control each other. So in terms of language and in terms of content, usually these writings are better, but usually they're shorter. So length probably shouldn't be looked at this point. And you can do it offline, like face-to-face in class. They just sit together and write, or you can do it online through a Google file that you share. Both students go there, or the whole group goes there, but they work in pairs. And you give your feedback, you know, because you see what's going on there. And finally, I would definitely recommend also creating realistic writings that are connected with real life. I'm not talking about exam writings now. I'm talking about motivating students and creating interest to writing in general. It could be writing a post on Instagram or Facebook, or if it's a review, let it be a review from a real website. Like my students, once we were reading a book together, Flowers for Algernon, and I asked them to write a review, and we posted this review on goodreads.com. So it was a collaborative review. It was fun. I mean, it could be, you know, realistic and interesting. Well, I think that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for being here. Sorry for the connection problems and everything. This is me. If you want to get in touch, and if you want to like find me somewhere online. Thank you.
So thank you very much for your talk. It was very informative, and we are sorry for the technical issues. There are some questions on YouTube. So Екатерина, could you please tell us like how often you think it is appropriate to write in the classroom?
Did you hear anything what I said? Okay, I probably should answer again. So how often, okay, how often you think it is appropriate to write to write in class? I would say there is no correct answer what is appropriate, because that will depend on your curriculum, on how many hours a week you teach, how many, like what is the syllabus you are using. Let's say with teenagers I was talking about, I used last year the course book called Eyes Open. Eyes Open has quite big units because it's integrated skill communicative book, and writing goes at the very end before, let's say, last speaking section, and one unit might take 2 or even 3 weeks. We meet twice a week, which means that I will do this proper writing in class once in 2-3 weeks, something like this. It could be more often, probably. You don't need to spend the whole lesson. It could be shorter. It could be taking one bit of writing to teach, you know, let's say teaching structure or teaching genre or teaching something else. It could be quicker, or it could be a proper writing. So, okay, another question I have. Can you give any ideas of good motivation to write for teenagers? Well, that's what I mentioned from my experience. They write if they like the topic. Let's say when there was a task in the Eyes Open book to create a review, and there were certain goods to make review for. I think they were like headphones, camera, and something else. And normally, right, what we do, we say, okay, guys, here are the products, review them. There are certain, you know, there were descriptions. What I did, I said, okay, would you, you need to write a review. Are you happy with these products? Would you like to choose some other ones? And they said yes. So they were actually reviewing the latest models of iPhones they have, or their own headphones, or something else. So it was just the same task, but just a personalized one. and I ask them to Google information about their products and find the descriptions of the products. And we discussed which websites they will go to, you know, like apple.com or any other website, or maybe Yandex Market, to look at the descriptions of the products. As I said, teenagers often are not happy with the topic, and even if I give them a chance to reformulate it a little bit, they already feel more like, let's say, in control of what is happening. And it's just an illusion that, okay, I've created this topic, now I will write it. So this might work. Sometimes I give them choice from genres. Okay, guys, you might write an essay or you might write a story. What would you like to do? And they choose. And I say, okay, next time you'll have to choose another one. What else? Well, that's just from the top of my head, I guess. With teenagers, what I like, you can ask them. You can ask them what will help you to write it better. What can interest you and motivate you. There is also a trick. Actually, there is a funny trick. If you know that your students are not, you know, do not spend proper time on it, what you can do, you can ask them when you're giving a task. You can say, okay, guys, raise your hand if you're going to create a proper writing at home, for example, if it's a homework. And this is a trick, because if they don't raise their hand, they immediately say that they're not going to do it. If they raise their hand, they kind of promised themselves and you that they will do it. So usually after this trick, like raise your hand if you're going to do it properly, after doing this, they do it better than before. Well, it's just a psychological trick, but I like it. Okay, let's see if we have any more.
So, Екатерina, thanks a lot. It was a very informative and nice talk. And I'm happy to introduce our next speaker, Sветlana Grебенникова. She's a co-founder of Blah Blah Lab Studio and a holder of international TKT qualification, ELT conference speaker, YARConf including. I know that they are watching us. Thanks a lot. Svetlana also founded English Mechanic Constructor Lessons VK group, where you can find all the materials for your lessons, and she's happy to share them. And today Svetlana is going to talk about writing online and offline, and is going to give us some cool tips to try. Svetlana, we are happy to see you.
Hello, can you see me well? Okay, so thanks a lot, Yulia, thanks a lot, Irina, thanks a lot, Екатерина, for this. So for this meeting, yeah, here. Thank you, Екатерина, for your trick. Yeah, this, so raising the hand. Yes, it is really interesting, and I think it is really useful. So I'll try, and then send you my feedback. So now I think we can start. So let's check. Does it work correctly? So my presentation, I mean. Okay, so I'll try to do my best. So nice to see you all. I'm very excited really to be here, and it's amazing that our conference is online and we can share our experience, yes, throughout the world. So throughout the Russia Federation, yes, and I'm really honored to be here and to give you a talk. So some facts about me. My name is Sветлана Гребенникова, and I'm a teacher of English in Samara. We have the online and offline school now. It is in Samara. It is Blah Blah Lab. And I've been teaching English for more than 10 years now. My students, they are children from 2 to 14 years old, and they are very interested. And due to this fact, I really want to make my teaching better. I have the group in Вконтакте, and it is English Mechana constructive lessons, where I usually share my experience and share all these interesting tips for teaching. And I hope that today I'll share the cool tip that you'll try and bring some real emotions, some so love, passion, and of course fun to your classes. So you see that writing is as basic skill as, and it is as important as speaking, writing, listening and reading. But students need to know how to write. They need to know how to write letters, how to put reports, how to reply to advertisement and use electronic medias. They need to know punctuation, they need to know paragraph construction, and of course some specific vocabulary, yes? And our job is to teach these skills. When we usually find the good writing for children, for students, for teenagers, we get to know that it will depend on their age, of course, to their interests and to the level of students. Firstly, we make sure that our students, they have enough language to complete the task, and then we can choose the model according to these abilities. And we'll try to get students writing in a number of common everyday styles that will help them to motivate them and to keep their interest, of course. You see that now children don't really want to, so it doesn't work, yes, the presentation doesn't work. So, and what about, okay. Okay, so it works, okay. And you see that children, they don't really know how to write, yes? So they don't know how to express their feelings, to express their emotions, to express their knowledge, yes? So sometimes they don't know how to do this. But writing is a great process and it is a very useful practice. There is a huge increase in writing communication now, but on the other hand, children don't know and don't really want to write stories. Yes, no stories anymore. But we need to try and to give them practice all the time, because writing is a great mental process, because it gives time to think, to reflect when writing, to prepare, to make mistakes, to correct these mistakes, and find better solutions for this. We, the students for 14 years old, we usually use copying, yes. We usually use guided writing when we get students from step to step, yes, and process writing. And I will share some of the experiences here. So the typical route for classroom working on help students to write is using the topic. And this topic should be really interesting for students, as Kate said yes in her speech. So topic should be relevant, and it should be interesting for their age and level. So my students from maybe 7 to 10 years old, they are interested in computer games, yes, and we usually speak about this, and I usually put all these things in my classes. My students from 12 to 14 years old, they are usually beautiful young ladies, and they are usually keen on different sitcoms, yes, some technical issues, and of course fashion. So and it is useful for me to take these topics and make them as a topic of our lesson, yes? Then we have to introduce the task. So writing can be the writing itself, yes, when we prepare for this task and then write maybe the article or the letter or something else, or it can be the part of a task that we have on our classes, yes, and we should introduce it. So teach them what should we do now, yes? Then we should brainstorm ideas. We usually do it as a mind map and some other things, and today I'll share these tips. Then we usually sort the ideas, yes? So what about, yes, so the topic. Then writing itself, and of course checking. So checking is the great process in class because children can check each other. They can give feedback, and I teach them how to give feedback. Firstly, we start with the good things, yes, that are perfect, and next step, yes, we go to the checking, so some mistakes or maybe some things that the readers, yes, their peers don't understand about this writing. So, and I think it is useful because they learn how to give feedback, and they have practice here. And then we have reading out loud. We usually read our writings, yes, because they really like sharing these things, and they and then maybe we speak about this, so they like speaking about it. So, and of course, this year, yeah, we had a great experience because we had all our classes online. So my first experience this year was a Viber messenger for writing. So all my teenagers are keen on chatting, yes, and we set a special chat in Viber, and I asked them to put all their questions in English there. I give all my information to them in English, and sometimes I ask them to put their small notes about the lesson. So, for example, a week ago, I asked my students, we started our classes, and I asked them to give the feedback for the lesson. So, and my question, so I sent them, was like, what did you like about today's lesson? Then what activity was the most interesting, and what activity was the most difficult for you? So, it was a real relevant experience for them, yes, and they said that they, so what do they like? Yes, they write to real people, to their classmates. They use real language. Moreover, they use abbreviations and smileys, and they really like it. And they can share these smileys with each other, so it's great. And it gives emotions, yes, to these writings. And they can send comments, they can reply to discussions, and I think it is great for them, and it is so motivation, yes, so great motivation. So for me as a teacher, yes, I can analyze their interest, I can check their mistakes, yes, of course, I ask them question in past simple, so I want to get this past simple from them, yes, and I provide them this relevant experience, and they really like it. For students, they can estimate themselves, they can give a feedback for the lesson, and they can communicate with real people. So, and it's really great. Then my next tool here, yes, is a Zoom chat, or the secret chat, as I named it. When we were online, we worked in Zoom, yes, and in your Zoom settings, you need to tick put in settings, tick that your students should chat only with the teacher, only with you. And now you can send messages to everyone, and they can send messages only to you as a teacher. It can help you when you work with maybe 8, 9 So from 8 to 14 years old students. So, for example, with 7 to 9 years old students, they type collocations or short sentences, and what it gives them as students. Yes, they don't disturb from working. They type and they practice typing, and they don't have so the way, yes, to cheat, yes, and they need to work with their own head. And for this activity, we usually have a time limit, for example, 3 or 4 minutes, and we have a task for them, like, so children, you need to give collocations and type them in our chat. So, and for this activity, I give you the point. So every right collocation or every right sentence should give you the point. On the Zoom screen, I usually put some words like so words that they need to use in their sentences, for example, in the collocations, and in these. So, and after that, yes, I take these points, yes, and give these points to them. So, for example, so Masha has 7, and so on. With 10 and 11 years old students or 12 years old students, we give kind of a test to these students and put a kind of a race. So they have to read the questions, for example, or do the exercise like filling in the gaps or reordering the sentences, and they should type the right answers into the chat, and you give the points for them, and they send these answers only to you, so they can't cheat again. Yes, and this activity can be the part of our activity or the activity itself. So I think it is okay here. So then, when we speak about offline writing, I usually use it maybe once in 4 or 3 lessons. So sometimes we write, so after each unit, yes, we have the big writing. Sometimes we write on every lesson, but writing not the full activity, yes, but small activities, so before maybe speaking, or the writing during the listening, so and so on. And I usually insist on neatness in this case, because other things are not so crucial, yes, but for my students, neatness is very, very useful. And I teach them how to take notes, how to mind map, how to decode, how to write down drafts, questionnaires, and we usually practice fast writing. Yes, fast writing is a quick note taking when they take this note and they put everything what they listen to, for example. Yes, and I teach them how to write, how to note, how to make questionnaires, and how to use all the structures. So, for example, decoding, yes, this is the first activity. I use it with the children from 8 to 10 years old. This is from the book Academic Task 3. It is decoding. What you need to do, yes, you need to set this table on their whiteboard and put their ABC on one side and 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side. And inside, put the things that you need to make sentences with, yes, words. This is the start writing. So my preparation as a teacher is very simple. I usually do this for students and give instruction for them. So my instruction for students like this: you need to decode these words and write the sentences correctly, and put these codes on the whiteboard. There are usually 3 or 4 codes on the whiteboard, and then I give them the time limit, of course, and they so do it on their own pace. So what is the main idea here? Yes, the main idea here is to remember spelling, of course, because it is useful and it is an interesting way. Yes, so this is the way. How can you make it more interesting and motivating for your students? And they don't really understand that this is writing. Yes, they just have fun, they decode, and they don't understand that practice all these sentences. Yes, so for you as a teacher, you just need to put in this table, for example, their verbs only in the third singular form. Yes, and put there not people, yes, but maybe man, woman, and a dog. Yes, and put there, and they practice these things, and it is really interesting and useful for them. So next one is the idea from the book English World Second. It is the book which we use with students from 7 to 10 years old, and we have the reading and writing, and we start with copying. So what is copying? Yes, copying is the text that we have on the screen or on the whiteboard, and we copy it sentence by sentence in their copybooks. But they need to put the sentence and then expand it. Yes, so make it make the sentence longer. For example, it is a lovely Monday. Yes, and we analyze, we speak about them, so we ask them to give us information. What can we say about Monday? Yes, or then we can say maybe Grandpa is picking beans. So we can add here green beans, Grandpa, so I don't know, Grandpa Ben is picking green beans, yes? So, and they need to expand this. So in this case, they learn how to, write, yes, and it is really useful before replacing. After this, so when we got the full text, yes, for example, it is a lovely Monday, Grandpa Ben is picking green beans, we try to replace this. So we try to say, not Monday, but maybe other days of the week, yes, it is a lovely Friday, Grandma Polly is picking orange carrots. Yes, and it makes them writing their own ideas, but you need to make the activity step by step. Yes, in this case, you don't have many mistakes, and you don't need to correct them, and you take them from step to step. Yes, and bring them to their story, to their draft. Yes, so and I think it is really useful. Then my favorite game is a clever parrot game. I usually play it with in different styles. So I need the mechanics of this game. Yes, and clever parrot in writing is a very simple one. I dictate the statement, and children write down the statement if it is true to them. So, for example, I start with very simple ideas. Yes, for example, I like writing, and they put this, I like writing. Then we analyze the structure that after like, we usually use ing form, yes, and after that, I ask them to replace this writing with their own ideas. And we have these ideas like, I like speaking, I like running, I like jumping, and so on, yes. And children, again, they don't understand that they write, but they do this. Yeah? And after that, so maybe on the other stage of the lesson, or maybe later this year, we have the same activity, Clever Parrot, and I dictate a statement, and if it is true to children, they write it down, and if it is not true to them, they paraphrase it and make it correct for them. And again, they don't understand that they write, but they do this. Yeah, so I really like this. It's a kind of magic. Okay, next one is the mind map. Again, I usually use mind map for speaking. I usually use mind map for reading sometimes when we analyze the structure of the book or their story, and usually use the mind map for writing. So, for example, yesterday, we had classes with the children offline in their office, and we talked about TV programs. My working with the mind map is very simple, but very useful for me. What we need to do? We need to set a topic. Yes, we need to set a topic and brainstorm some ideas, get some ideas from children. For example, here I ask them question like, which TV programs do you know? Which TV programs do you usually watch? Which TV programs does your family like? Yeah, like this. And we get all these activities. Then we discuss and take notes in our copybooks about each of these programs. Yes, and you see that we circle the most interesting one. It is a documentary. This is the traveling, adventures, animals programs documentary. So my children, they really like documentaries and they don't like talk shows. And we have the topic, yes, to write the for and against, maybe kind of composition, yes, but not a composition, yes, itself, like with the introduction, for and against, and conclusion, but just some for and against, some statements, yes. So and put this in a text, and we have this topic, and we as a group analyze that. We all like documentaries. We have this chart, yes, you see, I really like, and it goes to I hate, and they speak about this. So we use speaking to take these notes, and then they discuss this, and we add more information, some collocations, and note it down in their copybooks. Then we sequence these ideas. So we put the arguments for documentaries in the first paragraph and put the arguments against talk shows in their second paragraph. Yes, and then give us our own opinion. And I help them. We make a draft together. And only after that, I asked them to write it down, and I gave them for about 4 minutes. They wrote it, and they check this work with each other, not with me, but with each other. And they give this peer correction to each other, and only after that, we read it out loud. It was really interesting. It was not so time-consuming, yes, because it was kind of a speaking plus writing activity, yes, and I usually have these mix in my classes. But it was really, really, really useful, and I saw the motivation from children, and I saw that they really liked this topic. They really, so they are fan of this topic, yes. And sometimes we usually use mind map when we start writing with children, and we can add some special questions for them. So, for example, who is there in the text? Maybe if we write story, where did the story take place? Who is in? So what is happening? Sorry, what was the weather like? And we put this in different paragraphs, yes. So, and I have here the a small picture, yeah. So opening, paragraph 1, paragraph 2, so and so on, yes. And we put this mind map, so of how to write, yes, on the blackboard first. And here we have the my favorite activity, again, speaking plus writing as usual. Yeah, this is a kind of speaking activity, and my So the main idea here is to take random cards or blocks in this case and give their associations and make a story. And connect these pictures or connect these cubes into a full story. So we have the, so I usually set the topic here. So for example, your story should be about a boy. You should use past simple or present perfect. And your story should be in the horror genre, for example, or it should be romantic story, or maybe it should be the, so, you know, maybe humor, yeah, so full of humor and jokes. So I set these rules before, and after that, I ask the children to share their emotions. Do they want to do this activity? And only after that, I separate the class into two teams, and we start our working. Our first group, they start speaking about their, so they start speaking and making this story, and the other group, they are noting down all these ideas. Yes, they note down, they make notes. After that, for example, after 2 minutes of speaking, the speakers became writers, and writers became speakers. Yes, so vice versa. And after that, they have notes of both parts. Yes, and they have to share these notes to each other. I usually separate them into two teams again, into two groups again, and they take their notes and put more and more details. Yeah, so expand their sentences to make the draft. They make this draft in pair, of course, and then check by themselves. Then we have this peer correction, like checking, one group checks the second group story, second group checks the first group story, and only after that they again check and add some information, and only after that they put this story on their own. And we usually put this story on their own. They take these notes to their homes, yes, and they do this as a home task. On the next lesson, we usually start with this writing. We read them out loud, and it is really interesting. We sometimes ask questions about these stories, but they really like it because they did this on their own. So I think that is all for my speech. So yeah, great. If you have questions, please feel free to ask. So Yulia, do we have questions? Maybe I should. Maybe some questions are here. So what age do you start writing with your students? So these are my questions. So I start writing with the 7-year-old students, but of course it is not the writing itself. Yes, it is just writing the words. So my first step here is to teach them spelling and to give them motivation to write. And so they don't afraid of writing, yeah. And they write these maybe small sentences or small words, and then we so put it all together. How much time do you devote to writing during the lesson? So if this is the writing activity, like the story making, or maybe their so let me see, the clever parrot. So clever parrot, decoding and copying, these are kind of maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, and if it is mind the map or story writing, this should be the whole lesson because it is full of speaking and writing. So I have two main aims for this lesson. And yeah, it's useful. So I think it's okay. Then what do you do if children aren't happy about romantic or horror stories? Do you change rules? Thank you for the question. So they usually like horror stories because they are keen on them now, and I usually set the topic, yes, according to their interests, of course. Sometimes girls don't like writing romantic stories, so in this case I give them opportunity to put their unusual character. Yeah, so for example, once in a romantic story there was Freddy Krueger. It became horror. It was really fantastic. So do you have any writing competitions? Okay, competitions. So what do you mean competitions here? Because we usually have races for writing, but what I mean when I say race, yes, race, this is a thing when you set the time limit and the children need to write down their sentences before their classmates did this. Yes, so this is a competition for me. And if it is writing competition like something else, no, we don't have it. Sorry. Do you write with your students for some special occasions? What do you mean here? So for some special occasions, like what? Like maybe happy birthdays, or maybe, I don't know, Christmas. Yes, we usually make postcards, but I usually give this for children so as a home task. So we don't have much time on the lessons for this. So I think that's it, yeah? Okay.
So Sveta, thank you very So Sveta, thank you very much for your inspiring talk. Sveta is coming to our KRUK conference, and we are looking forward to our meeting in person. Yeah. So thanks a lot. Thank you for your questions. Please don't be shy. Write them on our YouTube chat, and our speakers will be happy to answer them personally. So, and our next speaker is Екатерина Сташевская, FL teacher and teacher trainer, educational games developer, a founder of Pro English Online EFL teacher community in UK, a founder of Britannica School and picture book lover. And today, Екатерina will be happy to talk about creative writing with young learners. We know that a lot of teachers struggle with writing with small children because they're really unmotivated sometimes. So Katerina is going to share her experience. Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, hello everyone. Please type something into the chat box if you can see and hear me well. Sorry, I can't see the chat box. Okay, thank you, Alexander. And where are my slides? Can't find them in the files right now. But okay, I've got them on my desktop, so I'm going to download them. Please just wait a minute. Okay. So, so while my presentation is converting, let me tell a few words about myself. So my name is Екатерина Stashevskaya. I'm a teacher, and I've been teaching English for over 11 years now, I think. And I've got a small language school of my own. And I'm also a teacher trainer, and I specialize in teaching young learners and teenagers. And I've got a group on VK, which is called Pro English Online Teachers Community. And this is a community of teachers where we share ideas, experience, give advice to each other. And today I'm going to talk about something I really love. And I'm a great picture book lover and a compulsive picture book buyer. And today the topic of the conference is writing. So I'm going to tell you about my experience of doing writing projects with students. But before we start, I'd like to ask you a question. Do you use picture books in your teaching? And what are your favorite ones? Please type it into the chat box. Do you use picture books? Which ones do you usually use? Okay, I'll wait a minute for your answers. So, Alexander, please tell me. I can't see anything in the chat box. Are there any answers? Maybe I just can't see them. Yeah. Are there any answers from the participants, from the viewers in the chat box? Okay. All right. So maybe there are no people who use picture books today, so I'm going to share some of my favorite ones, and maybe you will find something for yourself. So, as you know, you can read a picture book, and you can do different follow-up tasks. So you can use it for storytelling, for developing students' speaking skills, and you can use it to act out situations as a model for dialogues, for example. And you can turn a picture book into a writing project and ask students to make their own books. And you know, young learners are not very enthusiastic writers. They are not very happy about writing tasks in the book because they're slow writers. It takes them quite a lot of time in the beginning to write sentences. And if they have a task like write 7 sentences describing your bedroom and use there is, there are, they are not overly enthusiastic about these type of tasks. They sometimes say, "Oh, right, not again, please." But you can change that situation if you turn a writing task into, guys, let's make a book project. So if you tell your students, okay, now we are going to make our own books, they are super happy about writing and their attitude changes a lot. Why picture books? Because some of the children's picture books are perfect models for creative writing. They have simple repetitive patterns, and I usually take picture books for younger native speakers, and their simple repetitive patterns are great for both practicing our grammar patterns and they're easy for students to reproduce. And you can make a book which will be a lot like the model, the real book, and students are so happy about being able to create something real for themselves. And let me give you an example. And I'll start with one of my favorite books. It's called Ketchup on Your Cornflakes, and it's by Nick Charette. He is one of my favorite authors, and I've got a lot of books by him. So he's also the illustrator of the book. And this is a mix and match book. And it goes like this. So you can mix and match different pages. And you can ask, for example, do you like ice cubes on your cornflakes? Or do you like ice cubes on your apple pie? Or do you like a woolly hat on your apple pie? Or do you like a duck in your lemonade? Do you like a duck on your head? Do you like salt on your head? So as you can see, this is a very fun book, and students from the ages of like 4 and up to the ages of 9 love it. And you can practice do you like pattern, which is quite a useful one for beginners or for young learners which are just beginning to learn English. And we make our own similar books. How do we do that? First, we read the original book and we have fun. And if the pattern is new to the students, I also practice with them. Yes, I do. No, I don't. So to make sure that they can answer my questions, I ask students, okay, come out, make a line. And every time you say, yes, I do, you make a step forward. Every time you say, no, I don't, you make a step back. So do you like cake? Yes, I do. Do you like tomatoes? And some students step forward and say, yes, I do. Some students say, no, I don't, and they step back. So I ask them some questions, we practice it, and after that, we're ready to read the book. And I ask, for example, do you like ketchup on your toothbrush? And students say, no, I don't. And I ask individual students, okay, how do you like your ketchup? I like ketchup on my spaghetti. How do you like ketchup? And students use their own variants. For example, I like ketchup on my steak. I like ketchup on my bread. And we can ask individual students for their own options. And after reading, usually we do it next lesson, not the same class. We first read the book. Next lesson, we can read the book again or ask questions from the book again. And then I write on the board 3 prepositions, in, on, and with. And I take a pack of flashcards and I take 2 random cards, for example, cheese and salad. And I ask students, okay, what do we use, in, on, or with? And students help me. Okay, do you like cheese in your salad? Then I take 2 more cards, for example, chocolate and cake. And students again help me choose the preposition. And it may be, do you like chocolate on your cake, or do you like chocolate in your cake? So we practice the prepositions because we can use different prepositions with different options. And after that, I give them some mini cards and they play in pairs. First, students takes 2 cards and he asks his or her partner, for example, do you like honey with your fish? Or do you like honey on your fish? No, I don't. Then the partner takes 2 cards and asks, oh, do you like tomatoes in your lemonade? No, I don't. So we practice. And after that, I give every student a sheet of paper and I tell them, okay, now please fold it in half and crease it. Now unfold it, and I draw an example on the board. On the top part, you write, do you like, and you draw a picture. For example, do you like strawberries? And on the bottom part, you write in, on, or with, and you draw a picture too. For example, do you like strawberries in your cupcakes? I draw an example on the board. Then every student draws his or her own page of the book, and this page is like a normal combination, like sugar in your tea, strawberries in your cupcakes, and so on. And then I collect all the pages and I put them together using a stapler. And after that, I cut the book in half, and we've got our own book. And it looks like this. What do you like? So one of the students who finished their page first helped me to do the cover. And it goes like this. We have got some normal combinations like, do you like tomatoes in your salad, or do you like cherries on your cake? But we can mix and match, so we can ask, do you like tomatoes in your lemonade? Or do you like marshmallow in your cocoa? Or do you like marshmallow in your burger? Or do you like ice cubes in your lemonade? Do you like cherries in your lemonade? So next lesson, we've got our own book, which we read and ask each other questions. And for this book, before putting it together, I actually made a copy for every student. So I've got a colorful printer. So I just copied every page, and I gave every student a copy of their own book to take home to show to their parents and to their family. And they were so proud. They took the books to school. They wanted to show the books to their English teacher at school. And they talked about how proud their grandmas and grandpas were. So students are really happy about making such projects. And there are some other books which may be really useful. For example, another book I really love is Where's the Green Sheep by Mel Fox and Judy Hossack. And it goes like this. Here is the blue sheep, and here is the red sheep. Here is the bath sheep, and here is the bed sheep. But where is the green sheep? Here is the thin sheep, and here is the white sheep. Here is the swing sheep, and here is the slant sheep. But where is the green sheep? Here's the band sheep. Here is the clown sheep, and so on. So I think this book is a great example of how you can use nouns as adjectives before other nouns like the bath sheep, the swing sheep, the slide sheep, and it shows students how they can be creative with words. So we read the book and we have a lot of fun. And next lesson, there's also a song for the book on YouTube. And next lesson, we go back to the book. And there are some new words for students. And we first practice them using flashcards. There are also flashcards for this book available on the website kizclub.com. So we practice the new vocabulary. And after that, I tell students, okay, now we're going to make our own books. And at home, I prepare a page of small cats made for coloring, like black and white coloring page with lots of cats. And I cut them out at home. And before doing that, I drew a big cat on the board. And by the cat, I drew balloons and a cake. And I asked students, okay, what kind of cat is that? And students say, oh, that's a birthday cat. Yes, perfect. Then I clean up the balloons and the cake, and I draw a small girlish crown on the cat. And they ask, okay, what kind of cat is it now? And students say, oh, that's a queen cat, because they know the word queen from the alphabet, from the letter Q. And they say, yeah, that's exactly, that's the queen cat. Okay, who can change the cat? And the student comes out and draws something, for example, a TV around the cat. And okay, what cat is it now? It's a TV cat. And then every student just puts a hand in a bag and draws out a small black and white picture of a cat, and I give them like a piece of paper and glue, and they glue the cat onto that piece of paper, and they draw a picture around the cat, a picture of their choice. They could do anything, and they write a sentence about the cat. So we had some really interesting variants. For example, this is the Earth cat, and here's the Christmas cat, and here's the Magician cat, and here's the Present cat, and here's the Vampire cat. It was shortly after Halloween, so some Halloween vocabulary was still fresh in their minds. And here's the Flag cat, and here's the Candy cat, and here's the McDonald's cat. This was the most beautiful picture, so I decided to make it the last page of the book, and we called the book Where's the McDonald's Cat? And we made the pictures, and of course that takes time, so I gave them the cats and I asked them to start making their page like 7 minutes before the end of the class. And of course that's not enough, so students say, oh no, we are not ready, and I tell them that's okay, you can finish at home. So they do most of the drawing at home, and then they brought the pages back and I put them together. And we had our own book, which we read. And after that, I asked students to make their own similar books at home. I told them, okay, you can have like 5, 6, 7 pages. Do not make it like a super thick book. And they chose their own characters, and they made similar books. And one of the girls left me her book as a present, and it's called Where's the Sleepy Bear? And it goes like this. Here's the football bear, and here's the boat bear, and here's the flower bear, and here's the love bear, and here's the Halloween bear, and so on. So they made their own books, and after that we came back to the classroom, and they proudly presented their books as authors, and everyone listened. And after every child presented their book, I asked other students to name all the characters they have remembered, and we had a contest who can remember more characters, and we had so much fun. And these books, they could take them home and to their home library, and they also could show it to everyone in the family and to their friends, and could tell that I wrote a book in English. And of course I praised them a lot. I talk to their parents after class, and I tell them that I'm super impressed by your books, they're so wonderful. And it creates the situation of success for the students. They think, oh, I can make a book in English. Wow, I'm so amazing. Another book which I can highly recommend you is called Red Rockets and Rainbow Jelly, and it's again by Nick Charette and Sue Heeb. And this is a perfect option when you need to practice this little tricky S in the third person singular, which all the learners of English have problems with. This is Nick. This is Sue. Nick likes red apples. Sue likes green pears. Nick likes yellow socks. Sue likes yellow ducks. Nick likes orange hair. Sue likes purple hair and purple flowers. And so on and so forth. For example, Nick likes pink and orange dinosaurs. Sue likes red rockets and red dogs. Nick likes green and pink and orange and yellow and purple jelly. Sue likes Nick. Nick likes Sue. So this is just perfect for practicing this S, likes for he and she. So I read the book with students, and next class we read the book again. First I read the book to them, next class they read the book to me. And I ask students to invent our own characters. So I draw a boy and a girl on the board, and I tell students, okay, how can we name the boy? And they chose the name Harry, because there's a Harry Potter fan in that group. And how do we call the girl? Choose the name for the girl, please. And they chose Christina. So I tell students, okay, now we are going to make a book about Harry and Christina. And again, every student gets a page, a piece of paper, and on one side they draw Harry, and on the other side they draw Christina, and everyone chose what they're going to write about. And it goes like this. This is Harry. This is Christina. Harry likes plum juice. Christina likes tomato juice. Harry likes blue cats and blue caps. Christina likes pink toys and pink cats. Harry likes cherry ice cream, and Christina likes coconut ice cream. And so on. So they've made some pages about Harry and Christina. Every student made a page in class and one more page at home, but actually they finished their first page, which we started doing in class. They also finished it at home, because I cannot afford to spend like hours on making books. So I usually started by the end of the classroom, and then I tell them, okay, never mind, you can finish your pictures at home, that's okay. So then I put all the pages together and we read our own book. And I also asked students as a homework for the next class to make their own small books, and they presented them in class too. And they told about their own characters, and somebody invented the characters, somebody made a book about, a girl made a book about herself and her sister. And they talked about things they liked, and we also tried to remember as much as we can from each other's book, and we also had a lot of fun. One more book I can recommend you is called Peppa's Busy Day, and it's about Peppa Pig, and it's got this fancy clock which makes a super cool sound. So you can use it while teaching the time. And it's not very interesting. It's like at 7 o'clock in the morning, Peppa wakes up. Time to get up, George. At 9 o'clock, Peppa and George go to playgroup, and so on. So that's not a super exciting book. And actually, you can make the same project even if you don't have this book. So after we've read it, I gave every student a sheet of thick paper, and there's a clock fixed to it, and it's got moving hands. So the hands are actually moving, and to make such moving hands, you can use these little things called brads. You can buy them in Leonardo or other shops for people who like to make crafts. And then I gave every student 2 pages, 2 sheets of paper folded like this, and I cut them a little and I fixed them onto this green page with a stapler, and they made books about their own day. Like at 7 o'clock I get up, at 7:30 I have breakfast, at 7:45 I go to school, at 12 o'clock I come home, and so on. So they made their own books. Unfortunately, I don't have any copies, but you can see them on the photos. So we presented the book to each other. And then after each student presented their book, they could ask their peers some questions. Okay, what time do I get up? What time do I play with my friends? What time do I do my homework? And they had to listen to each other carefully in order to be able to answer the questions. So you can, again, I can repeat that. You do not have to buy that book to make this project. So you can just use some thick paper and fix a clock to it and attach some paper and ask students to make a book. Just make one as a model to show them what you are expecting of them. And one more book I love is again by Nick Sherratt, and that was our Halloween project, and it's called What's in the Witch's Kitchen. And it's got these fancy double flaps, which are super cool. So what's in the witch's kitchen? Open it left or open it right. Will you like what you see, or will it give you a fright? What's in the fridge in the witch's kitchen? Beds with fleas. Tasty cheese. So you've got like double flaps, which is so cool. What's in the bowl in the witch's kitchen? Toffee popcorn or slimy frog spawn? Or what's in the tin in the witch's kitchen? Biscuits and cakes, spiders and snakes. And in the toaster we have some crunchy hot toast, a grumpy burnt ghost. And in the cupboard, some baked bean soup and macaroni, and something very, very bony, and so on. And in the end, you've got this witch pop. So the most difficult task here was for me to figure out how to make these double flaps. But in the end, I managed to do that. And let me show you the book we made. So it's called What's in the Witch's House. So I've decided, since we've read about the kitchen, now we can make a book about all the house. And it goes like this. What's in the wardrobe in the witch's living room? Here's a zombie head. Here's a pretty hat. What's in the cupboard in the witch's kitchen? Here's a snake. Here's a strawberry cake. What's in the fridge in the witch's kitchen? Here's a kind cook. Here's a ghost book. Okay, and what's in the shower in the witch's bathroom? Here are Halloween balloons, and here are witch's boots. And there are some other pages, but I'm not sure. Okay, I will show you anyway. It's hard to see, I think, but it's the carpet. So we can flip the carpet like this, top or down, or like this. And there's a spider daddy, an old teddy. So before doing that, we also practiced doing rhymes. So I asked students to think what they'd like to put into the witch's house. So, for example, some balloons, boots, and so on. And I asked them to come up with a rhyme for that word. So there should be something good and something bad, and those two things, they have to rhyme with each other. And I helped some of them with the rhymes, and some of them helped each other with the rhymes, with the ideas. And basically, they did most of the work at home. And I'd like to show you how we made those flaps. So for the flap, you need to cut a sheet of paper into halves, and then you fold it in half, you crease it, you fold it in half again, and you crease it, and now you unfold it, and you fold it like this. This part will be like glue here, you glue it to the page here, and this, the end of the strip of paper, you have to glue it to the previous page. So you glue them together, and now you can open it like this, and you can open it like this, or you can open it top and down. And so these are the book we've made for Halloween. So how to do it? You need to start with a book which has a simple repetitive pattern. And another book you can use is, for example, Dear Zoo. I wrote to the zoo to send me a pet, so they sent me an elephant. He was too big. I sent it back. So they sent me a giraffe. He was too tall. I sent him back. So they sent me a lion, and so on. For example, you can turn, there's also a Christmas variation, Dear Santa. And you can turn it into something else. For example, if you are studying clothes, for example, you can, for example, make a book about ordering clothes from an internet shop, which is which all students know about, and some students even get clothes from internet shops, so they know there may be some problems with their shipments. So you can make a similar books about ordering clothes, for example, or ordering furniture for their house. Practically, you can use it practically with any topic. So you choose a book with a repetitive pattern, and if you need, you brainstorm some collocations they might need, or rhyming words, like in the example with Witch's Kitchen. And then you can either make a book together, and you can either copy it for every student, or you can ask students to make similar books at home, because it's important to make sure that every student can keep something from this project, to show it to their parents, to their friends, to be something to be proud about, to add to their library. Because when students have got like a few books they have written in English themselves, it really works wonders, and they start feeling even more positive about learning English. And we present the books, and we give every author a big round of applause, of course. And I ask students to prepare some questions about their books, or ask other students to remember as much as they can. So, and we read the books and we have fun. So, first of all, it develops students' creativity, because they create something of their own. They have to use their imagination. They produce like real books. They also practice writing in a more engaging way. Of course, you can do an exercise from the book, but you can also turn this exercise into a writing adventure. And it makes language personal because they often write about themselves, of their friends, of their pets. And it helps a lot with their confidence because now they know they can produce something really valuable in the other language, and we have a lot of fun, of course. So, have we got any questions? So I've got some questions. How old are the children you work with? I work with the children starting from the age of 5 and up to the end of school. The children in this project, they were 8 and 9 years old when we created these books. Do your students have students' book? Yes, we do have students' books. So we do these projects not like every lesson, not super often, maybe once a month, sometimes even once in 2 months, maybe. Yes, so we use picture books as just supplementary materials from time to time. So whenever I think that a picture book I've got in my library may be useful for the topic we are currently studying, I can use it, but we do not base our course on picture books, of course. We've got some real course books, which I think is an important thing, because a course book gives you some structure, and you can add to this structure some elements which you think can make the educational process richer and better, and can enhance your learning and teaching. Have we got any other questions from our viewers? Just feel free to ask questions. Okay. It seems we've got no questions for now. Okay, so thank you for joining us today. Thank you for watching. You can find me on VK or on Instagram, and you can also send me an email, but VK or Instagram will be quicker. Thank you for joining me today, and I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me. It was such a pleasure.
Ну вот мы доплыли до меридиана буквально, да? До экватора. Мы уже до экватора доплыли. Спасибо большое. Очень приятно проводить субботний день такой квалифицированной компании. Спасибо Екатерине, Светлане и Екатерине за то, что так, в общем, много у них есть чем поделиться. И мы уходим на брейк. Проведите это время с пользой, съешьте что-нибудь вкусное и полезное. И мы встречаемся здесь же в 13:40 и продолжаем говорить про обучение письму. И мы услышим еще спикеров про обучение письму младших школьников и дошкольников даже. А потом будет еще выступление уже, как работать с этим скиллом в группах старших школьников, студентов и взрослых. Так что оставайтесь с нами. Встречаемся в 13:40.
По этой же ссылке.
По этой же ссылке, да.
Ссылка остается прежней. Ну что, дорогие коллеги, мы продолжаем нашу встречу pre-KRUK. В первой части конференции мы обсудили психологические аспекты обучения письму, поговорили о том, как разнообразить обучение письму в онлайне и в офлайне с малышами, а также обсудили принципы creative writing с нашими самыми маленькими учениками. И я с радостью представляю следующего спикера pre-KRUK, Евгению Ерофееву. Евгения многолетний друг и партнер школы Тип-Топ, которая много раз приезжала на наши очные конференции. Ну, вот, к сожалению, в этом году не получается приехать, но мы очень рады, что Евгения нашла время и возможность пообщаться с нами в режиме онлайн.
Скажите мне, пожалуйста, у меня первый вопрос. Есть ли здесь преподаватели других языков? И, соответственно, если у нас только англичане, то тогда я перехожу на английский. Если есть другие языки, напишите один в чат. English, please. Okay, so thank you everyone once again. So we are ready to start. My name is Evgenia Yeroфеева, and today I'm going to share some ideas with you about teaching writing through comic strips. As Yulia has already introduced me, I'm just going to learn how to navigate here. So first, I'm going to switch between the slides. So I am the owner of an ILT school, and we are based in Balashikha. Also, I've been teaching English for more than 15 years now, and I hold a CELTA certificate and a couple of other international certifications, and I also work as a teacher trainer in my online project for teachers, where we prepare students for TKT exams, mainly teachers, of course, or those who wish to become teachers. I see. Okay, now you can see everything. Yes. So my presentation is on teaching writing through comic strips, but I wanted to keep an open mind on what you can do with comic strips. So we will share some of the ideas maybe later on and extend this to some other activities which relate not only to writing. So my first question to you is, how do modern kids feel about writing, especially if we... Sorry, yeah, you can you see my presentation, because it appears like as a black screen when I try to look at on YouTube. Look at it on YouTube, sorry. Yeah, everything is good. All right, so modern kids, they normally don't like writing stuff, especially if we talk about something academic. Yes, so they are bored and they resist writing anything, especially if we speak about early teenagers, say when they're 11, 12 years old, they hate writing anything, but they absolutely love writing and reading comic books, and we can use this. So I see that in my screen there is something black. So I need to wait for the next slide to load, as far as I understand. So yeah, the next slide is here. So they like comic books, and they like it so much that they probably know more about comics than you do. In my experience, for example, when we were on a trip to Oxford, and when we were browsing different places for books, the first place the kids went to were the bookshelves with comic book strips. So it's like no doubt they know much more about it than we do. When I think about some comic books which are, say, related to some English stuff, the first thing that comes to my mind is the one I'm showing a picture of. Do you know this comic strip and the name of this? So this comic strip is like a classic comic strip which was written in America, and it is called Calvin and Hobbes. And if you don't know that, it's okay. Probably some of your kids, they know about this because it's like American classic comics and they know about that. If you don't know, it's fine. There are sites where you can Google for comic strips, and then you can also use this as an opportunity for your students to tell you about their favorite comic books, the plots, and so on. And you can use this for extra speaking practice. So that will be beneficial for the both of you. Now, I like to be nerdy about things when it comes to theory. That's why if we are talking about writing in general, I need to specify two approaches to writing which we might use. So the first approach is process writing, and the second is product writing. As you can probably you know about that, but let's stress it one more time, that when we deal with writing as a process, we walk our students through certain process. When they start planning their ideas, then they go to create their first draft, then if they need to edit and then redraft, and if we try to apply the second approach, which is called product writing, we present some model where the students can recreate something, yes, following the model. So if, for example, you want to use product writing in teaching writing through comic strips, you surely have to have some examples on what comics or what comic books might look like, and for that you will need some ideas. So if you ask me, the places where I look for ideas is, number one is Go Comics, because here you can find lots of classical comics and different stuff like this, and also modern ones, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, so they keep expanding their database with different comics, and you will also find some new information there too. Then there is another site which might be useful for you, which is called Zen Pencils. This would be good for materials to prepare with, for example, young teenagers, and with those age groups where you can elaborate on something. Yes, it's not just something that they need to describe what is happening, but they need to think, and they need to reflect on what is in the comic strip, because sometimes in those graphic novels there is some moral, and it's worth exploiting in the lesson. So Zen Pencils is the site, I would say, where you can find novels with some sense, and this is the reason why I love using this. So if we speak about primary school, yesterday I found a great resource where a teacher shared lots of examples with her readers, and I tried to look for some of them and try to open and read. They are absolutely lovely, and they are friendly, primary grades friendly comic strips, because most of them, if you try to look for some authentic materials, they contain a language which is not graded, they contain some swear words and some dirty jokes, so you need to censor the content. And those sites appear to be primary grades friendly, so I am pretty sure you will be able to download the presentation somehow, or if you need this information, you will be somehow able to request this, and those links which I provided here in the presentation, they are clickable, so you will be able to have access to this information if you need it. That is for you to get an idea what modern comic strips look like. But of course, if we talk about teaching English in class, those might be different, yes? And it's up to you to choose the topic, to choose the narration, to choose the characters, to choose absolutely anything to include into your lesson plan. So when I used comic strips while teaching writing, of course, I thought of different ways to include that, and comic strips sometimes were not only used while writing, yes, they could be used as a preparation to a certain activity and something else. So my question to you now is, if we think about product writing, what tasks and activities can you think of to introduce the model, which won't be very boring, not just like, this is a comic book, look, and try to recreate the same thing. So what activities might help us, or what tasks, better to say, might help us to present comic books in a more interesting way? Please write your ideas in the chat, and I'll share some of the typical ideas that most of the teachers would use. So imagine that you have a comic strip that consists, say, of 5 or 4 frames, and your task is to present this model so that on the later stage of the lesson, the students repeated this. So role play, yeah, good. Role play can be used, but not just a way of presentation. Yes, yes. So role play is one way of working with comic strips. What about closer to the topic when we speak about writing and practicing writing somehow? Okay, I'll switch to the next slide. Probably someone else is typing something, and while you are typing something or anything, I'll talk about the ones I pointed out. So the first obvious thing you might do is take a comic strip, cut it into several frames, and jumble them. Yes, ask the students to unjumble the pictures and put the story in order. So after they did that, they have the whole model of the comic strip, and then you kind of introduce the model, and you can work on this later on in other exercises. Then the second obvious thing you might do is trying to white out some of the speech bubbles on an actual comic strip and ask students to complete these strips with their own ideas. And again, this can be done either individually or in pairs or as a whole class, depending on the time or on the place of this activity in your lesson plan. Say if it's for presentation, you can use it as a whole class, and then you write the speech bubbles and then compare it with the original, for example. If it's at a later stage when you are practicing something, you can put your students in pairs or in groups and ask them to complete the comic book like this. Then the next, maybe the third most popular task here, not an activity actually, but a task, is story completion. So when you remove the last frame or a couple of last frames if the comic strip is too long, and ask the students to write their own endings. So they are, at this point, they are not writing all of this comic strip, not creating it from scratch, but they start creating a piece of writing, although it might be just small, and the smaller the more difficult it is. And then they can compare their versions with the students, yes, like a peer comparison. And then you can provide the original comic strip, and only after that, say, ask them to create a comic themselves, a comic book themselves. So when, hold on, I showing cards, pictures, yes, thank you very much. So when we speak about teaching writing through comic strips, and we use a process writing approach, like a process writing. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, there are certain stages we work our students through. Yeah, so first they need to know what to write, how they're gonna do that, and then try their own ideas and try to apply their own ideas somewhere. Of course, you'll start with giving them a sort of plan to follow. Yes, you will ask them to brainstorm the ideas, and later we'll ask them to create their first draft. When we think of a comic strip, like a regular comic strip, what does it usually consist of? So what can you find in any comic book, like a story? So it has a beginning, there is something happening in the middle, yes, and it finishes like something else, yes? So what are the typical features, I would say, of comic strips? Can you write in the chat, please? A lot of exclamations, yes, exclamations, and this is really good because I haven't included that into the presentation, but this is one of the things you can teach your students, because exclamations, they contain onomatopoeia, yes, so the sounds which are repeated the way they are, the way they sound, and the graphic symbols of those is a good thing to practice, yes, like ouch, oh, and things like this. Of course, a typical feature of comic strip is a spoken language. So that would be an actual language your students will use in real life, and that's what makes it good. Now, when we speak about comic strip, of course, there should be some character, yes? And if you want your students to help develop a character, you can provide some sort of a worksheet, like a character map. It can be anything you can think of, what is necessary for you at your stage of the lesson. I just made the print screen of the first character map I Googled on Read, Write, and Think, which contained boxes like what the character looks like. So if you work on appearance, you can leave just the first one, then how the character acts, and how other characters react to this character. Usually, in all the comic strips, there not only one character, yes, there is one good person, and possibly there is some villain. So you need to start with helping your students to describe those characters, and for that you can give some of the handouts containing character maps. Also, there should be some setting and some description of the problem. Yes, then something bad happens, a villain attacks the city, and then there is a good character who saves the world, happy ending, for instance, yes? And you can put that into a comic strip. And of course, you need to share the information with your students that any story starts with the beginning, and then there is a rising action that goes to the climax, yes, and then there is some falling action and the end. So like exposition, climax, resolution, and this is like the main rule of the story. You can teach that through some of the examples, not necessarily you give them the plot diagram, but you just simply give them examples where they can see that there is something happening, because sometimes when students have lack of ideas, their comic strips might be boring. But in our personal experience in summer, we had lots of classes where we used, for example, different apps to create movies or cartoons, and it turned out that our students are much more creative than we think they are. Even teenagers who were reluctant to do anything, they created such amazing cartoons that were full of interesting ideas, and the plot was interesting as well. Also one more thing which is useful, and you can use it later when you teach reported speech and direct speech, is saying that there are some speech and thought bubbles, and you can use, for example, comic strip that contains only direct speech, but then use the frame where you had both thought and speech bubbles, and teach them how to, for example, change this sentence from direct into indirect speech using different words like said, thought, and so on. And as my task originally was to share some information with you, which you might use with in your classes online, I was browsing through different sites which have the opportunity for you students to create their own comics. So I'm going to share the most like one of my favorites. Actually, there are two which I like and use, and then there are two more that I've never used, honestly, but maybe if you take a look, you'll find them useful. So I'm going to share this information with you now. So the first one, and this is one of the most, I think, versatile, I would say, is storyboard.com, because it has lots of different scenes. So you can see, you have a scene in the city, you have a scene on the ocean, outdoors, at school, in library, and so on. So they could be a lot of different settings. Then you can also change the characters. This is me trying to use different characters. You can change their poses, you can change their emotions, of course, skin color of clothes and everything. And that makes it great. So you can turn the character around, and the students will love this because they will be able to create a full story, and it will be very good to look at. Now, the second one, which is maybe not that versatile, but that it still has a variety of settings and a variety of characters, is called wittycomics.com. And you are able to share a link with your friends for free. Storyboard that also has some of the free options, and some of them are available if you register and then have some premium settings. But for free, you can also create a very good comic strip, and it will be interesting, and the plot might be intriguing, using all the settings and characters which are provided in a regular account. Sorry. Then the third one is make-believe comics, and my question for you about the language was partially because this comic strip, make-believe comics, you can use and you can use it in different languages. So not only English might be typed here, so you can switch to any language you teach. So these are the 3 ones which are available without any registering. So you just open the site and your students are able to work on the comic strip right away. Now, I'm not going to probably share some of the ideas what you might do with that, because like it all depends on your context, and I'm short of time now. So I'll just say that you can integrate that into any lesson and change the topic, and you can use it for almost like any story. Yes, so it can be a follow-up after some exercise in the course book, or it can be a separate course where you teach your students to write through comics, and it will be more engaging for them than just write a regular story on paper. They get really creative in the process, and the result might be shocking for you and for themselves too, because they never thought they could create something like that. So now, do you have any questions about the tools or the ways to use them? So do you use more product or process writing? Do students draw or only write strips? Do you use comics created by your students with these groups later? Yeah, that's a very good question. Yes, I used comic strips created by my students later on, and there were a number of ways we could do that. So we tried to create the stories, tried to add on some frames to that story, and also with individual students, I just, for example, could use a comic strip to try and switch from spoken to formal language. Yes, so we rewrote the quotes using different register. So there are a number of ways a number of things you can do here. As for product versus process, normally, maybe I'm a control freak, but I try to provide some guided writing. So I start with explaining what they have to do, and then they follow the steps that I create for them. But I know that students get more creative if they just use some comic strip as an example, and later on they create something of their own. It boosts their creativity more, because they are not restricted by the borders that I created for them. Yes, they are free to think and create something outside the box. So any other questions? Do you see, by the way? Because I see that there is black square in the middle of my screen. No questions. Okay. Thank you very much then for your attention, and thank you very much for inviting me to the conference. I hope some of the tools that I shared might be useful to you. If you have any questions, any further questions related to using comic strips, you can always contact me. These are my details. I'll be happy to talk to you anywhere. And thank you very much for your kind attention. Oh, I don't know what is happening. It's like I see the slide, it's open. And then it becomes black again. I don't know what is happening. I'm not switching anything here. Okay, good. So thank you very much. If there are no further questions, like I'm off, I guess. So should I?
Evgenia, thank you very much for your talk. It was really absorbing. Thanks a lot. And our next speakers are Ольga Lavrenova and Maria Boжилко, who are going to tell us about letterland methodology, which is an actual eye-opener. I must say that I've never heard of it before the conference, so they're going to tell more about it in a few minutes. I guess in 4 minutes we're going to wait a bit for them. And yeah, so just for them to get into the speakers. And while we are waiting, we would be happy to see your comments and questions in our YouTube chat. Maybe you still have some questions to Eugenia. I think she will be happy to answer them. And we are waiting for Olga and Maria. Yeah. So Olga is here, and we're going to listen to their report.
Алло, алло. Hello. Hello, hello. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Да, спасибо большое. Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники. Мы рады вас всех приветствовать. Да, спасибо большое. Напишите в чате, слышите вы нас или нет, и видите ли вы нас или нет. К сожалению, не удалось нам посмотреть предыдущих спикеров. Спасибо, да, большое. Предыдущих спикеров будем с Машей выступать на русском языке. Меня зовут Ольга Лавренова. Я являюсь преподавателем английского. Thank you very much. Спасибо, Ирина. Да, я являюсь преподавателем английского языка со стажем уже более 20 лет, кандидат филологических наук. И в данный момент работаю, просто вот являюсь владельцем собственной школы, собственного центра развития, обучения детей. И вот Маша является моей коллегой, моей помощницей, моим методистом. Мы с ней вместе обучаем деток английскому языку. Можно уже приступать, да, я так думаю. Очень хочется, конечно, поделиться экраном с вами. Да, все, я нашла как. Окей. Тема нашего выступления. Очень хотелось нам, конечно, приехать в Крым, но, к сожалению, не получилось, потому что, сами понимаете, в связи с какими обстоятельствами. И поэтому мы с Машей использовали такую прекрасную возможность выступить в онлайн и рассказать, поделиться с вами тем, чем мы занимаемся. Тема нашего выступления, сейчас я пытаюсь настроить экран. Так, еще раз. Да, пытаюсь настроить экран. Подскажите, пожалуйста, да, куда нажимать? Все, нашла. Спасибо большое. Все. Ура. Тема нашего выступления – мультисенсорный подход к обучению грамоте детей. Так как единая тема конференции – это обучение письму, мы с Машей готовы поделиться и рассказать о том, как мы обучаем письму деток, начиная в возрасте от 3,5 лет, да, от 3,5 лет, используя мультисенсорный подход. Скажите, пожалуйста, напишите, да, видно презентацию или нет? Да, видно, спасибо большое. Ага, спасибо большое. Таким образом, пытаюсь понять, как мне ее переключить. Да, извините, пожалуйста. Да, все хорошо, наверное, вот так вот. Мы работаем с Машей по программе Letterland. Вот, и сейчас хотим начать с такого маленького вступления, да. Не обижайте детей готовыми формулами. Формулы – это пустота, обогатите их образами и картинами. Чем нам понравилась эта цитата? Ну, тем, что мы, наверное, так с Машей работаем. Мы обогащаем их жизнь какими-то образами, картинами и пытаемся дать им полное видение мира, ну, через изучение английского языка, в том числе и через изучение письма.
Для нас главное – это эмоции детей, чтобы они не просто запомнили, что это буква или звук, но чтобы они, для них это был какой-то образ, чтобы они запомнили, что любит этот герой, что он делает. И если добавить еще вот к этой фразе, что не обижайте детей готовыми формулами, мы придерживаемся такого мнения, что нужно наблюдать за детьми и стремиться как-то им подыгрывать и как-то подстраивать свой урок, свой план под то, что предлагают дети. Наблюдать за детьми – это очень дорого стоит.
Ну да, потому что иногда бывает, что дети приходят с плохим настроением на занятия, мы с Машей пытаемся его поднять и сделать так, чтобы ребенок получал удовольствие от занятия. Ну, я попыталась представить себя, сейчас я расскажу поподробнее, да, потому что было в процессе настраивания конференции, да, своего выступления, а теперь расскажу вам поподробнее. Ну, меня зовут Ольга Лавренова, кандидат филологических наук, преподаватель, много-много всяких сертификатов, кембриджских в том числе, являюсь сертифицированным преподавателем Letterland. Школа обучения в Воронеже у нас называется ABC Land Club, работаем вот именно по системе Letterland. Ну и также, если вы меня знаете, я занимаюсь проведением онлайн и офлайн конференций Центра Олимп успеха. Ну и выступаю на различных конференциях. Маша, сейчас вот Маша расскажет о себе.
Меня зовут Мария Божилко, я лингвист, переводчик с английского языка, преподаватель английского, стаж преподавания 15 лет, обладатель сертификата Pearson, обладатель сертификата TKT и также сертифицированный преподаватель Letterland. И являюсь методистом Центра обучения чтению ABC Land Club в Воронеже. Ну, Маша еще и блогер у нас. В чем суть нашего подхода? Мы считаем, что мультисенсорный подход сейчас, наверное, это то, что нужно использовать на занятиях с детьми, потому что очень много приходит деток, которые имеют какие-то трудности обучения, и мы считаем, что нужно развивать его комплексно. На нашем занятии от 45 до 90 минут мы пытаемся затронуть все сенсорные моменты, которые необходимы для дальнейшей жизни. Это зрение, во-первых, да, вы сейчас увидите, с помощью чего мы пытаемся настроить ребенка на правильное восприятие букв, потому что изучение написания английским буквам, сами понимаете, особенно если это маленький ребенок, если у него трудности обучения, не всегда может сработать, потому что есть очень много похожих букв. Есть много, которые не похожи.
Да, есть буквы, которые, допустим, похожи на русские буквы, они путаются, да, допустим, русская буква Р и английская буква P. Есть буквы P
есть буквы, которые не похожи, capital and lowercase letters.
Ну, то есть мы для этого используем зрение, да, канал зрительный, мы сейчас покажем, как. Обязательно эмоции, Маша уже об этом сказала, да, мы пытаемся сделать так, чтобы ребенок получал удовольствие от английского языка, от занятий. Мы используем тело, сейчас тоже расскажем, как. Руки,
движения, которые, да, делает этот герой. Да, движения, с помощью которых мы можем написать эту букву.
Мы еще используем крафт на занятиях, слушание и говорение. Таким образом мы запускаем работу мозга в правильном направлении, в том, в котором нам нужно. И получаем просто изумительные результаты. Мы с Машей очень довольны нашей работой и теми результатами, которые получают наши детки.
Главное, что довольны родители.
Ну, во-первых, если вы не знаете, система Letterland работает следующим образом. Мы вводим не буквы на занятиях, мы вводим героев, да, то есть мы говорим о том, что мы путешествуем в волшебную страну Letterland, и что в этой стране живут не буквы, а живут герои. И таким образом дети знакомятся со зрительным образом буквы, совсем необычным, да, они видят букву в форме какого-то, может быть, животного, да, допустим, буква С, это у нас clever cat, может быть, в форме какого-то человека, да, и учтите, обратите внимание, Хэри Хэтман, он у нас handicap, да, это еще и вот эта вот инклюзия, да, сюда подключается, что он у нас человек с ограниченными возможностями, да, ну, вот он хромает на одну ногу, да. Также с какими-то отрицательными героями, такие как Red Robot или Walter Walrus, или со стеснительными героями, как Зиг-Заг-Зибра, да, то есть буква представлена в образе живого какого-то персонажа, и ребенок с легкостью переключает этот образ и эмоции на себя во время урока. То есть он отмечает, что вот я тоже скромный, вот оказывается, эта буква тоже скромная. Или вот я, может быть, там тоже у меня не совсем все хорошо со здоровьем, оказывается, там такие, и буквы такие бывают, да, герои. Ну, в общем, у нас это выглядит совсем по-другому, образы букв совсем другие. И те элементы, которые мы используем для написания, они очень просты. Ну, во-первых, это AIR или finger tracing, да, то есть когда мы вводим букву, обязательно мы с детками проделываем
пальчиком
в воздухе.
Да.
При этом преподаватель должен стоять обязательно спиной к деткам и вместе с детками в воздухе проводить букву, да, допустим, это буква I, точечка, да, или это буква S. Но при этом, обратите внимание, вы должны стоять спиной и наблюдать за ними, как пишут, чтобы не было отзеркаливания, да, чтобы было правильное восприятие букв. Второе, это у нас rainbow writing, у нас в учебниках есть целые страницы этому отведенные. Мы не раскрашиваем букву.
Сначала детям, которые приходят, сначала им очень сложно понять, что мы просто должны 7 раз нарисовать внутри этой буквы. А иногда они начинают сразу раскрашивать. Вот. Мы говорим, что нет, не так. У нас rainbow writing. Какое бывает у них удивление, когда действительно появляется радуга. То есть мы берем 7 карандашиков и 7 раз ребенок проводит эту букву.
Да, и получается, что мы таким образом украшаем букву, да, говорим, что надо ее украсить, сделать ее более симпатичной, да, более красивой. Это вот два таких базовых, да, трикс, мы их называем, на которых основывается у нас занятие.
Но на самом деле мы незаметно тренируем моторику руки. Да? То есть 7 раз сделала одинаковое движение, в следующий раз он уже делает его правильно.
Ну, просто когда ребенка попросишь 7 раз просто написать той же ручкой в тетрадке, пусть это будет в клетку, букву, ну, неинтересно, правда? А тут его попросить украсить эту букву и написать цветными карандашами, вот это вот интересно. У нас обязательно рассказывается каждой букве определенная история, потому что много букв, которые путаются, да, детьми, допустим, та же буква F и буква T, да, те же буквы B и буквы D, Q и P. У нас в каждой букве описание этой буквы в виде определенной истории.
Да, и как бы такой получается child-friendly rule, что доступным языком объясняется ребенку, почему мы делаем именно так.
Ну да,
именно на языке ребенка, чтобы для него было понятно и чтобы он запомнил это правило.
Ну вот talking test, у нас такая история, что она talking test, she likes talking on her telephone, yes, she talks and talks. И таким образом у нас обязательно, я как преподаватель встаю в форме этой буквы, да, выставляю левую ногу, I take my telephone, yes, and I says, I do like this, and I says, и мы тут делаем упор на то, что она, ну, такая бизнес-вумен, да, детям нравится очень этот образ, она такая выбражуля, да, девчонка, да, женщина, девушка, которая стоит в позе этой буквы Т, да, выставив левую ножку, и таким образом дети, видя меня, понимают, что да, и сами они за мной повторяют телом, да, эту букву, понимают, что это буква Т, да, мы ее называем talking test, и при этом они ее уже не перепутают с буквой F, да, firefighter Fred, потому что там у нас совсем другой.
Мы начинаем рисовать со шлема, с головы по шлему обводим, и потом от ручки до ручки.
Ну, потому что he's a brave boy, he's a brave man, да, firefighter же у нас храбрый парень, он же пожарник, его надо похвалить за его храбрую работу, и мы поэтому начинаем гладить его с головки, да, и при этом ребенок запоминает вот эти вот микроистории, которые уже готовы, прописаны, нам ничего выдумывать не надо. Создатель методики Лин Венден, она ее очень хорошо продумала, и вот эти вот истории очень хорошо помогают деткам запомнить образ написания букв, чтобы потом уже никогда не путать. А заглавные буквы это тоже очень интересно. Посмотрите talking test. Смотрите, что придумали, да. When she starts the words, да, when talking test is the capital letter, she becomes so proud, она так гордится тем, что ей дали право начать слово, that she stands so high, and we can't see her head. Мы не можем видеть в облаках ее голову, она так поднимается от гордости высоко, что we can see only her hand. И, соответственно, ребенок тоже стоит в форме этой буквы и с легкостью запоминает опять через total physical response, да, запоминает форму этой буквы легко. Ну и голову у нас есть облако можно, да, сделать, чтобы закрыть голову облаком, и все дети запоминают. This is talking test. То есть очень интересный подход. Нам с Машей очень нравится, он дает просто великолепные результаты. What else do we use? Action tricks. у нас у каждого героя есть свое движение, да, мы уже об этом упоминали. То есть вот вы видите Bouncy Ben, ушки, самое главное у кролика это ушки. Harry Hetman это же очень тихая буква, да, и мы ее очень на ручку дуем и незаметно ее
тихо-тихо произносим,
тихо,
чтобы никто
произносим.
не слышал.
Но это, наверное, больше не про письмо, а больше про произношение этой буквы. Но опять-таки, когда напоминаешь ребенку Б, он вспоминает что-то Bouncy Ben, и, соответственно, уже потом покажем тоже наш трюк, как он это все запоминает. Следующее. Система Letterland говорит о том, что буквы мы кодируем. Мы буквы рисуем, мы их не пишем. Я думаю, что, наверное, ребенку это приятнее воспринимать, что, ну, если какое-то негативное отношение, потому что к нам приводят, допустим, первоклассников, второклассников, и вы знаете, что детки сейчас не всегда с радостью кидаются выполнять задания, писать, то мы им говорим, мы буквы рисуем. Что самое интересное, это работает с начальной школы, то есть мы не говорим не только про деток дошкольного обучения, да, мы еще говорим про школьников, 1, 2, 3 класс с удовольствием рисуют эти буковки. Вы видите, прямо на занятиях мы их пиктокодируем, да, опять-таки проговаривая, почему именно такой образ буквы, почему именно так она выглядит. Допустим, Golden Girl, тут девочка
с золотыми волосами,
она качается на качелях у нас, да, и буква очень удачно повторяет
контур качели,
да, контур качели, контур косы, то есть девчонки очень старательно ее прорисовывают, вот там можно сзади меня видеть, так, кстати, Golden Girl, вот она, ой, сейчас я ее покажу, да, то есть очень старательно прорисовывают вот эту вот форму, да, девочки, качельки и обязательно косу, да, потому что коса, вот так, да. Да, тяжеловато. Коса повторяет контур буквы, то есть легко запомнить. Golden Girl, да, и очень часто девочки любят себя
наряжаться,
да,
в нее,
представлять, что они Golden Girl. Да и бывает, что на занятия приходят уже в образе Golden Girl, сделав, допустим, высокий хвостик. Вот так вот принцип пиктокодирования мы используем в тех же, допустим, тестах. У нас тесты совсем не страшные, дети их любят. Вот, допустим, задание написать слово cat, или написать слово dog, и, как видите, девочка запиктокодировала эти буквы, да, нарисовать какую-то, может быть, историю про эти буквы тоже очень любит делать, или вот просто нос, да, это вот мальчик, да, это был тест, и мальчик просто эмоции еще добавил в эти буквы, видите, у нас там целая история про банду роботов, то есть вот эти A-controlled syllables, да, A-controlled sounds, у нас в образе банды роботов, каждый робот ворует определенную букву, и таким образом ребенок передал эмоции, что букве уже надоело, что ее воруют, и вот она, начиная вот от такой вот небольшой злой, и уже под конец слова card, он уже, видите, она такая уже angry an apple, она становится уже злая, ну и просто вот там можно даже видеть, пинок дает этому роботу. Ну, то есть эмоции очень важны у нас с Машей на занятиях, потому что вы понимаете...
Дети даже составляют свои истории, да. И да. Мы за ними наблюдаем и видим, то есть даже Лин Бентон такое не могла сочинить. Вот, а дети, фантазия у детей прям очень интересна.
Ну да, то есть если ребенок пережил это эмоционально, неважно, понравился ему герой, может быть, отрицательные эмоции, вы понимаете, что эмоции дороги очень, да, уйдя с этими эмоциями, он будет вспоминать об этом герое постоянно, об этой букве, об этом образе соответственно. Что еще мы с Машей используем? Но это речь о том, что они у нас
то, что они делают дома, да, но на самом деле мы не выставляем и не даем домашнее задание, но каково наше удивление, когда на следующее занятие они приходят, приносят нам вот свои рисунки, свои подделки, это прям очень нравится.
Ну да, это вот дома ребенок, несколько детей рисовали, то есть, соответственно, они дома это все переживали, проговаривали, и, по-моему, это даже дороже, чем прописать буквы просто в Activity Book или что-нибудь еще подобное сделать. Вот они у нас рисуют, да, ну просто в примере, я все время показываю пример этой девочки, как она дома эти буквы прорисовала, и я уверена уже на 10000%, что она никогда в жизни не забудет, как они выглядят, как они пишутся, лепят. Это вот тоже...
Это моя ученица Маша, и мы с ней слепили, ну, вернее, она слепила все 26 букв алфавита, тех звуков, которые мы прошли. То есть у нее фантазия вообще очень интересная, очень нравится. Я стараюсь каждый раз, каждое занятие фотографировать это, и у меня прям есть коллекция. Но дома почему-то она их может спокойно, для нее особой ценности не представляет, для меня большую ценность представляет, потому что дома она может бац-бац и все, и другого персонажа слепить из этой. Вот. Прям обидно. А нам с Ольгой очень нравится, вот и как раз Ольга использует это во многих презентациях, показать, что какой труд, что ребенок вот так слепил, и как тщательно пролеплены именно вот все детали.
Да, и там Golden Girl даже вот с косичкой сплетенной из ниточек шерстяных. Лепим мы на уроках очень много, и при этом, что вы видите, у нас потом сочетания идут уже, это уже не просто буквы, это уже сочетания, когда вот эти сложные дифтонги. Да, и вот мы объясняем через Magic И у нас обязательно, да, всякие вот сочетания, такие как ш, даются опять в форме истории. Мы на занятиях обязательно лепим, прямо на занятии. Вот, можете посмотреть несколько примеров. То есть это и шариковый пластилин, и кинетический песок, и даже слайм девочки принесли тут же на уроках, и слайм ослепили прямо тут же на уроках. Это опять-таки разговор о том, что наблюдайте за детьми. То есть если ребенок принес слайм, не надо на него ругаться и говорить, убери его в занятии. Попробуйте использовать его в плюс. В мирных целях. Да, в мирных целях. Пусть слепит тут же прямо на занятии эти буквы, и, по-моему, ценности от этого будет больше, чем вы будете ругаться на этого ребенка. Это из глины, это из 3D ручки. То есть дети с удовольствием это все делают. И
новейшие технологии мы используем.
Часто, да, 3D ручки ударят родители, и потом ругаются на то, что дети поигрались там 2 дня и все, и забросили. У нас такого нет. У нас, видите, лепят наших прекрасных героев из 3D ручки. Но это то, как мы с Машей используем образ, да. Скучно же постоянно одно и то же повторять. У нас не скучно, на самом деле. Мы вот устраиваем соревнования. Это первое занятие, когда сложная буква S, да, у нас это semi-snake, как раззадорить, да, детей, показать, что они действительно могут это делать и действительно помнят, как эта буква.
Обязательно ставим таймер, больше напишем.
Да, это вот прямо...
И главное, правильно.
Да, делим на группы, на команды даже, может быть, если большая группа, то 3 ребенка писали, вот поделили доску на части и говорим write semi-snake. 1 minute или там 30 seconds. И 30 секунд вы засекаете таймер, в течение 30 секунд они пишут букву S. Обязательно правильно. И тут же вы видите, кто запомнил, кто не запомнил, кому легко, кому нелегко, чтобы еще раз проговорить это, да. Ну вот, обязательно подсчитываем, они очень радуются, те, кто больше написал. Ну, те, кто поменьше, может быть, расстраиваются, но опять-таки у вас есть повод повторить, и будет стремление у ребенка еще больше написать и запомнить. А это наша... интересный, тоже очень интересный подход. Вы все знаете, что буквы B и D путаются постоянно у детей. У нас это такая история. Б и Д. Опять-таки, мы напоминаем, да, я думаю, что зеркалит, наверное, но попробуйте левой рукой сделать вот так вот, да, Б. Не знаю, зеркалит или нет. В общем, вы видите на презентации. Мы рассказываем следующее. Bouncy Ben. У нас же это банни, да, кролик. Во-первых, буквы все смотрят вправо. Слева направо. И самое главное у кролика это ушки и мордочка, да, то есть вот он с поднятыми ушами стоит. Попробуйте, да, если я зеркалю, попробуйте взять левую руку и сделать вот, не все дети делают вот такое вот.
Вот это да. Сложно.
Сложно на самом деле, да, чтобы правильно. Зато вы смотрите, развита ли мелкая моторика у ребенка или нет. Это Б, Bouncy Ben. И Д, дипедак. Самое главное тут шея. И жирненькое тельце. Уточки же у нас толстенькие, да, им надо плавать в холодной воде. И таким образом мы используем...
В ручке даем усики, да, чтобы он запомнил. И когда он пишет, даже есть тоже такая фотография, не знаю, сейчас есть в этой презентации. Вот, то есть когда он пишет, прямо он к доске подносит руку и вот ее обводит. И то есть поэтому понятно, что это Б.
Ну, а для дипедак, да, перышко, хвостик, да, и вот обязательно голову и ушки. То есть это все есть, заготовки у Letterland есть, можно распечатать, раскрасить.
Да, сначала мы распечатываем, раскрашиваем, дети сами раскрашивают, склеиваем, и тут же вот потом пишем на
да, и идут с этим домой, опять-таки это проговариваю, прорабатываю.
Родителям рассказывают.
Родителям рассказывают, все время, когда они путают, начинают, все время говорим БД, и вот они вот так вот пальчики ставят, уже даже там 2-3 класс не видно, и вспоминают образ этой буквы. очень удобный подход, очень нам нравится, потому что мы знаем, что есть подход Б, но не всегда понятно, почему это Б туда, Б. В общем, мы так используем. Пожалуйста, рисуем на асфальте, пиктокодируем. Сейчас, к сожалению, лето прошло в скучном режиме, в онлайн. Пытаемся потихонечку входить в работу, но использовали, допустим, как маркетинговый ход, да, выходили с детьми к нам рядышком с центром на асфальте, рисовали, кодировали буквы. Хороший подход, если вы хотите привлечь еще себе посетителей и клиентов. Используем вату, используем петки, в общем, все, что угодно. У нас целый перечень того, из чего можно делать. У нас, я думаю, Маш, да, можно показать, у нас целый перечень из того, что можно здесь, из чего можно делать буквы, да. Letterland тоже заготовила, допустим, букву И можно делать, лепить из eggshells, да, из, как это называется, из яичной скорлупы, да, или, пожалуйста, макарони можете использовать, или lentils, или keys, или buttons, или beads, или apple seeds. То есть тут на каждую букву есть такая подсказка, чтобы опять-таки название того, из чего мы клеим эту букву, да, или украшаем ее, начиналось с этого же звука, той буквы, о которой мы говорим. Jelly beans, в общем, очень интересный такой подход. Ну вот, пожалуйста, вата, салфетки, все что угодно, все, что придумаете. Чем еще можно украшать букву? Просто украшать, какой-то дизайн ей придумывать, да, пожалуйста, вот яблочками, там, не знаю, чем можно. Ну, что-то внутри, узорчик какой-то разноцветный. Можно коллаж делать из бумаги. Я думаю, подготовки много не нужно к этому, правда, порезать, даже порвать руками цветную бумагу и прямо на занятиях приклеить. Можно вот такие специальные есть такие ручки с толстыми, ну, как фломастеры, да, с толстыми кружочками, можно так ее украсить. Пальчиковая краска. И мы с Машей любим очень использовать ватные палочки, писать. Даже использовали перья. Что мы еще использовали? Да, даже перьевую ручку для каллиграфии. И писала у меня девочка перьями, вот обычными. Вы можете их купить, да, в магазине для украшений из перья, для швейников. Писала даже пером. То есть всем чем угодно, что вспомните, в воздухе, яичной скорлупой выкладывать, вот еще чем можно, пожалуйста, даже металлической губкой, простой губкой, чем еще можно. В общем, тут шариками ватными, чем еще, пайп-клина, помпонами, ну, в общем, всем, чем хотите. Не выкидывайте, мы с Машей теперь ничего не выбрасываем, используем все, что можно. Да.
Так, следующее, что у нас есть кинестетический песок. Он такой космический, мы его называем, космический песок. И детям очень нравится, он очень приятный на ощупь. И вот раздают такие коробочки. С одной стороны, конечно, они детей иногда успокаивают. То есть, когда они расшумелись, просто даю коробку. И они с удовольствием рисуют в ней. В то же время можно потрясти и все писать уже следующую букву по новой. Так, и еще тоже проходили как раз вот Golden Girl. И у нее то, что она любит, это глаз. Надо писать на стекле. Как написать на стекле, это очень сложно и опасно, вот, поэтому вот нам тут помог один очень известный магазин, купила такую рамочку для фотографий, внутрь вставила слово, и дети должны это слово обвести.
На стекле?
Да, на стекле. То есть сверху по стеклу маркером стирающимся обводят. Очень нравится это занятие и все время просят, чтобы так порисовать.
Используем все, что лежит на занятии, да, у вас в аудитории, допустим, pencils.
Это у нас Fix-It Max. Ну, то есть как мы его можем написать? Мы его просто можем написать, а можем выложить из карандашей, которые у нас есть в студии, и в конце потом посчитать, сколько раз они выложили эту букву X, ну, этот звук X. Угу. Ну и, конечно же, наша любимая, у всех дома есть Лего. У меня есть специальные карточки, где все буквы алфавита, и заглавные, и маленькие. Дети садятся вот на коврик и лепят каждый кто какую хочет букву. Очень нравится тоже это занятие. В
онлайн мы пережили очень спокойно. потому что у нас есть специальная программа, которая нам помогала перейти мирно, да, безболезненно, не готовясь к занятиям ночами и днями. Вот тот же принцип написания мы использовали на занятиях с помощью платформы Zoom, да, давали дистанционное управление ребенку.
Инструменты для комментирования, то есть передаем мышку, дети точно так же карандашом обводят, находят то, что нужно, или могут вот там
написать что-то.
Да, могут написать, то есть делимся экраном, делимся доской, и дети, как раз это было вот сложно у нас, да, делимся доской, и дети с удовольствием пишут. Те, кто работает на планшетах, тем было вообще очень хорошо, мышку передавать не надо, можно писать одновременно.
Да, кстати, да, на планшетах, да, правда. Там можно прямо без специальных каких-то устройств. Ну и летом у нас прошел конкурс Letter Shapes Around Us, что буквы окружают нас везде. Но это вот несколько фотографий. На самом деле уже собрали буквы и действительно уже будем выпускать большой представительство Letterland в России. Оксана Гивербаум уже собрала и будет выпускать большой постер. На самом деле очень хорошее задание. Посмотрите вокруг нас и поищите буквы, действительно нас окружают. Вот, пожалуйста, буква H, это Ч, самолеты нам делают, Fixed Max, да, машут нам с вами приветствие. Из кружки вообще тут и D буква, и P, да, и Q, в общем. Вот ребенок нашел, что, оказывается, за ручку Umbrella.
Маленькая девочка, да, 3,5 года, вот она обнаружила, что это Jumping Jim.
Ну да, то есть лето у нас прошло, хоть, к сожалению, в офлайн мы не работали, но прошло достаточно интересно, потому что все мы занимались тем, что искали буквы вокруг нас, и очень оригинальный плакат получился, очень интересный. В этом участвовали преподаватели и дети, наши ученики. Поэтому спасибо вам большое, можете тоже эту идею использовать, очень интересно. Ну, в принципе, если у вас есть вопросы, можете написать нам к Марии в ВК, вот вы можете мне найти Ольга Лавренова и Центр обучения и чтению ABC Land Club. Но так получилось даже, что, наверное, работая по Letterland, начиная просто как клуб английского языка, пришлось нам переименоваться в Центр обучения и чтению, потому что шли и идут до сих пор родители с просьбой о том,
что дети не умеют читать.
Научите ребенка читать. То есть уже слух о нас пошел о том, что есть такая школа, образовательное учреждение, которое помогает деткам читать. Вот именно и приводит начальную школу второклассников и даже третьеклассников вот именно с просьбой научить читать. Я сейчас покажу Машина, вообще безумно интересная тоже группа. У нее там всего, чего только возможно, можно найти. Вот играем в английский Letterland. Ищите Машу тоже в ВК, и с удовольствием она вам ответит и поделится всем, чем можно. Группа действительно прям куча всего. И поступил вопрос, сколько детей в группе, с какого возраста вы учите детей, находите эту методику продолжения на более взрослых уровнях. Детей в группе у нас максимум, наверное, человек 6, больше мы не берем, потому что у нас очень активные занятия, у нас постоянное движение, смена деятельности, посидели, пописали, поиграли, попрыгали, побегали, опять посидели, пописали, полепили, посоставляли буквы, то есть у нас занятия очень насыщенные. Учим где-то с 3,5 лет.
Да. У нас есть уровень Letterland Starter, где как раз в прошлом году к нам пришли дети 3,5 лет, ну и вот за год, получается, вот 4 года исполнилось. И за год мы прошли этот учебник и перешли в онлайн, помогали все родители, и ребенок уже по окончанию уровня Letterland Starter в конце, там такой как бы тест опять у нас такой в игровой форме, но вот я как раз делала отчет, что прочитала 14 слов. При помощи наших таких игровых методик, с помощью мы используем, как еще, метод слайд, да, горка. То есть мы соединяем буквы, то есть мы там говорим к, т, cat, и вот так вот как бы, то есть она прочитала. То есть читать научились, а писать это сейчас уже будет следующий уровень, Letterland 1, и вот где уже начинается письмо.
Ну да, то есть вот будем теперь делать упор на это, потому что ребенку 4,5 года, будем готовить ее уже к школьному, да, английскому. Находит обучение во взрослых уровнях. Сейчас отвечу на этот вопрос. У нас где-то приблизительно, наверное, до 3-4 класса дети обучаются по этой программе, да, но мы, естественно, ее можем добавлять и разбавлять необходимой грамматикой, да, которая нужна для того, чтобы ребенок чувствовал комфорт в школьной программе. И на самом деле иногда бывает же, что и взрослые приходят, подростки, и взрослые люди, которые не умеют читать, и мы таким образом спрашиваем, а хотите попутешествовать в волшебную страну? Конечно, подросток чуть-чуть может опешить, но опять-таки мы говорим, а вот у нас есть такая интересная система, и вот бывает же, что подростки с трудностями обучения, до сих пор у них эта проблема может остаться, да, и мы таким образом пытаемся ее снять, и не представляете, им безумно это очень нравится.
Очень странно наблюдать за детьми, ну и за собой, когда ты привыкла к этой методике, и ребенок пишет диктант и говорит, а какую букву здесь писать? А ты говоришь, any apple или the elephant. И ты понимаешь, что они еще не взрослые, они не знакомы. А наши вот маленькие дети, которые к нам пришли и прошли от уровня стартера и до уровня там 2-3, то они легко понимают, то есть они что писать? Firefighter Fred. А, все хорошо. Или какого писать? Clever Cat или Kicking King? Ты говоришь, Kicking King. Ага, все понятно. Вот, то есть
да, спарринг у нас необычный очень. Вот, это да, это за собой замечаем. И мы, преподаватели, кто общается с нашим методическим таким коллективом, у нас methodological team, Letter Methodological team, и мы очень друг друга поддерживаем, помогаем.
Из разных городов, там команды из разных преподавателей, которые работают по методике Letterman.
У нас такие вот красивые футболки, да. Не видно. Вот, мы все теперь в таких красивых футболках, члены этой команды.
Так, ну еще хотелось бы показать. Есть у нас вот такое пособие White Clean First Word Book. У нас есть маркер стиральный. Маркер стиральный.
Да, сейчас я покажу достираемый маркер. То есть внутри прямо в самой книжке можно писать. Да, вот, пожалуйста, там уже набор слов определенный, который детки берут и пишут.
Внизу алфавит.
Да, и вот тут вот прямо вверху слова. Ну, то есть, опять-таки, сюжеты очень интересные, плохо видно, да, вот так, сюжеты очень интересные. Вот в манере Вимбельбуха, знаете, да, наверное, когда много-много мелких деталей, которые хочется очень рассматривать. И вот тут каждый герой опять занимается своим каким-то делом. То есть тут у нас спикинг тоже поддерживается очень хорошо.
Вот другой уровень, следующий уровень, тут уже не буквы, а предложения, да, то есть ребенок прописывает вот такие слова, предложения более сложные.
Ну, для запоминания у нас есть также бархатные карточки, да, вот, или книжка есть бархатная, которая опять помогает ребенку вспомнить образ, да, как выглядит.
Здесь у нас прям стрелочками нарисовано, как нужно писать. Вот. И это вот бархатная бумага, очень приятная на ощупь, что ребенок запоминает само движение, как нужно писать.
Хочется трогать.
Да, хочется трогать, и не один раз за урок. И даже вот просто карточки можно потрогать, а можно вот почитать историю и тоже.
То есть это опять-таки разговор о том, что мы не заставляем детей писать, и не заставляем это все трогать, они сами хотят и сами стремятся, и самим очень хочется это сделать. Вот я так думаю, что мы с Марией закончили. Если есть вопросы, с удовольствием на них ответим, потому что сейчас продолжится занятие, как раз придут сейчас детки 5 лет, будут познавать на свое второе занятие, путешествие в страну Letterland, будут познавать уже сегодня any apple, да, в прошлый раз был Sammy Snake.
Да, у нас не такой порядок слов, мы не учим алфавит, мы не учим ABC, а мы начинаем, у нас своя система, начинаем с Т, П, ну и дальше там.
Да, спасибо вам большое. Если нет вопросов, тогда мы отключаемся. Очень надеемся, что доедем до Крыма, потому что в планах это есть. И надеемся, что решится этот вопрос с коронавирусом, и с пандемией. И приедем с удовольствием в Крым и встретимся с вами и еще раз подробнее обо всем расскажем.
Спасибо большое, да, что дали нам такую возможность поучаствовать онлайн. Мы с вами.
Да, до свидания.
Ну что ж, спасибо огромное. Какую-то сторону вот так. Спасибо большое, Мария, Ольга. невероятно интересно, потому что, конечно, мы учим иначе, у нас здесь с 4-летнего возраста, тоже есть уже своя методика, как мы обучаем к буквам, чтению и письму, совсем иначе, но прям вот очень интересно, к вам много вопросов, очень хочется к вам в гости напроситься, прям вот попасть к вам на занятия, походить по вашему центру, наверное, мы где-то в будущем когда-то и сможем это сделать. Ну и вот подошла к концу наша такая онлайн, первая глава нашей конференции заканчивается сейчас. Это наш первый опыт, поэтому мы вот прямо вот сейчас сидим и сами собой гордимся, что вот все-таки мы это сделали. Вот. И, наверное, вот надеюсь, что он будет и не последним. Этот опыт мы это будем делать и дальше. Спасибо всем, кто сегодня составил контент этой онлайн-конференции. Спасибо всем 5-6, вернее, спикерам. Спасибо всем, кто был с нами, кто слушал, задавал вопросы, оставлял свои комментарии. Ну и мы сейчас все в ожидании и в преддверии уже второй главы нашей конференции, которая состоится офлайн ровно через 5 дней. Она будет проходить 3 дня в Севастополе 18, 19 и 20 сентября. В программе много всего интересного. Я надеюсь, что вы уже читали нашу программу. Многие спикеры, спасибо им за это огромное, сквозь все невероятные преграды бюрократические, какое-то невероятное количество справок и прочих ограничений, все-таки пробиваются и смогут к нам приехать. Мы вас очень ждем и надеемся, что все у нас у всех будет тип-топ непременно. Спасибо вам огромное и до встречи. Всего доброго, до свидания.